Hey everyone, we are just getting set up. I'm going to make sure that we've got Michael with us and Alec is behind the scenes here. Alec, we see you, we hear you. It's working great.
My mics
Um,
were working good. We're live over here.
we are live, so we're on
Perfect.
live on X, YouTube, and Facebook. It is exactly 8:30, so election results may be streaming in any minute now. The polls have just closed. Is that correct?
Yep, as of 30 seconds ago, we are officially closed, boys.
So, some protocols that I suggest for the three of us. I like the labels. It's very clear who we are. So, and we can introduce yourselves, of course. Let's. If you have suggestions for what we should be showing on screen, just shout them out. And if you're following the chat, just please know that we can see the chat and we can interact with you as well. So if you think that we're missing something important, you just let us know and we'll go and grab it. We can get YouTube on screen. We can get X posts on screen. We can get all the things on screen and be watching the results flow in. So, how about some introductions while we're getting started here? Michael, you're up.
Sure. I mean, as most people probably are joining this call and this stream know, my name is Michael Harris. I ran as the Libertarian candidate for Ballot River Crowfoot. Over this election, I've had the absolute pleasure to represent my constituency and my riding for the last 4 months. I know the campaign's only been going on technically since July 1st, but I've been out here since early May, gathering signatures, talking to my neighbors, talking to the constituency, and hearing about the issues that are really impacting the people. And mostly, I'm just gonna say it right here, right now. Most people in this riding are libertarians. They just don't know it yet. Everybody, every town that I went to had some grievance with the federal government, whether it be taking away money out of their pockets, them limiting what they could do with their land, or people thinking that they're not going to be able to even live in this riding come 10 years if the Uni Party doesn't get their act together. And so it has been a pleasure, as I said before, to be able to run in this riding, to hear those concerns, and I'm so glad that I've been able to push it on the national level. It's not too often that rural Alberta here gets a lot of national spotlight, and I'm absolutely so glad that this is happening. So hopefully we can take things a little bit more seriously from now on.
Excellent, Michael. And so, where are you located right now? Are you in
Currently,
Calgary or Drumheller?
I'm back in Calgary right now.
And but Drumheller is your hometown.
Yeah,
And Alec, tell us
this is
about
where my
yourself.
computer
Where are
is,
you?
unfortunately.
Alec, we're not hearing you.
Your mic is dead, man.
Okay, check that out. Alec was working on this behind the scenes. While he's doing that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get something on screen here that we can all look at. Elections Canada is sharing official results online at this address, enr.electionscanada.ca, and then you can find it from there. But of course, nothing has changed since, and I'll keep refreshing this page from time to time. But you can see the number of people on these on this ballot,
All
just incredible.
214 of them in their glory.
214. And I'd like to welcome those that are tuning in. And thank you, Shannon. I appreciate your encouraging words for our competitor. But clearly, Pierre is if Michael does not win, then Pierre would be my second preference. Let's say.
Yeah,
And
I think Pierre Poilievre has a good shot of being neck and neck with me in this election.
yeah. And Sensei, thank you. Yeah, it's Canada wide. We have momentum from coast to coast. That is very important. So again, if you want to see things on screen, you think there's something important we should highlight, you just let us know that. And let's check in with Alec here. How you doing? Nothing yet on the microphone.
No,
Okay, Mike. Then Michael, I have a question for you.
sure.
Tell us a little bit about the highlights of the campaign debates. I know that a lot of like you attended all of the debates, correct?
Yes, all four of them.
And there were four that you were invited to. Tell us some highlights.
Honestly, I wouldn't even call some of these debates because some of them, especially the ones hosted by the city, were definitely more forums where they were more about getting the policies out and making sure that you're not out there attacking the candidates. You're trying to get your policies heard. That doesn't stop half the candidates from absolutely trying to kill each other on stage, especially in Camrose, where I mean everyone was out for either Pierre Poilievre, Darcy all on stage. I will say, though, I think my favorite debate out of all of them would have to have been the Tofield debate, because it was an actual debate. We were allowed rebuttals. We were allowed to actually conversate as candidates against each other and actually have our opposing views challenged. And I like that. Even though it was a little bit of a harder debate for someone of my age, I have to say it was probably the most fun I had in this election so far, was debating Grant and Jeff on live television. I was unfortunately disappointed that we had a lot of no-shows for 3 of the debates, where in Tofield, I mean, we were missing almost 212 candidates. I mean, the big dogs didn't even show up for it. And obviously Pierre Poilievre didn't even show up in Stettler, which is also really disappointing as well too. They had to replace him with Kenneth. And I mean, Kenneth's a good guy, but I don't think he was running a serious campaign. I mean, he's endorsing Bonnie. But honestly, it was just great after the fact, meeting people as well too, because we had obviously the debate, but then afterwards they allowed us to set up a table in the lobby. And afterwards you have all these people coming in, wanting to speak with you, wanting to hear more about what your party's about. And honestly, I think that's my favorite part, honestly, is talking with people. I think that gave me the inspiration to go and talk to the tens of thousands of people I talked to over this election. And so just having even 20 people, even after the Tofield debate, or about 100 or so people after the Camrose debate coming up and talking to me, absolute blessing.
Let's keep it clean here, people. I just noticing some of the comments. Very exciting to hear about the debates. I watched the debate in Camrose, the one that Pierre attended, and I was really impressed with your comments. You know, the way you handled many of the questions. Tell us some of the other highlights of the campaign. So, for example, you were invited to a number of podcasts. Yes.
Oh yeah, it's been a big problem of this election that I would say I put in probably the same, if not more work than Bonnie Critchley did in this election. I'm not attacking her at all, but however, in this election, she got a lot more media coverage than what my campaign did. Obviously, I was working with a smaller budget. Obviously, I was working with a smaller member base than she was. But at the end of the day, we still managed to bring on independent and obviously free-willed media to be able to talk about our campaign. We even had the Red Deer Times, the Community Press, the Canadian Press, also CTV News, also pick up our story. So those were pretty good highlights as well too, that people were actually seeing what the Libertarian candidate was doing out here in this election, talking with people. And even though the big dogs over in CBC didn't notice, at the end of the day, we still got quite a lot of attention. And there's still some coming out. I mean, there was one that was just released even 2 hours ago, and there's 3 more that are still coming out. And I think, honestly, out of all this media attention, probably the craziest thing is this election is probably going to stir up some politics on campus, because my campus newspaper, the Gauntlet, actually picked up my story and wanted to hear from me. So they're going to be releasing that after the election. They said they would probably be about either tomorrow or Wednesday. And so I expect a lot of good debates and a lot more attention from students at the U of C talking about this election come September.
So Snarky Trader shared a link at X. I just put that on screen. And I don't know this person. Jennifer Vaxed Masking just talks about how the election results are going to start flowing in, and that there's a link there that you can join. I wonder if there's a way I can actually post this.
I'm just waiting for the zeros to start turning into ones here. That's all I'm waiting for, man.
Yeah. Okay, I was able to just share a link as well directly to the Elections Canada website. And we're trying to get Alec back in. It'd be great if he can join, maybe on his phone. And I'll reshare the Election Canada results right now. So I know that there are other live streams happening currently. Northern Perspectives, they're live as well, showing by-election results. I don't know of anyone else. Do you know if election results are being live streamed by others? Not that I want our wonderful people to leave, but just so that we're aware.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I know all the other parties are doing their own little watch parties, but to my knowledge, there's not too many people picking up on it right now.
All right, people, chat. What are you interested to find out tonight? What are you watching for? What highlights are you hoping to see?
Honestly, I'm waiting to see how many independents are going to get 0 votes out of this election, because I think we had about 30 or so that got 0 votes during the Carleton election, and now that we have more than 200 of those independent candidates, there's not going to be mistakes being thrown around here. People have to write in the correct name to be able to vote. So, honest to God, how many people are going to actually get even a single vote in this election?
Right. Some of these names would trick me if I'm not intimately aware of this person and familiar with their name. I'm not sure I'd get many of them correct. Libertarian
Shout out
Party
to
in New
the other
Brunswick.
15 Michaels that are running in this election as well too. I think we also have a Mike Wazowski, so shout out to our favorite green alien running in this election as well too.
Yeah. There's 4 Davids. And there are, yeah, you're right, 7 Michaels.
Yeah.
7 Michaels, 4 Davids. Marty Jones posts an interesting question. Yeah, I agree. Why are there no other media covering the by-election? You'd think there'd be a live stream at CTV. I don't know. I would agree that they would. There must have been an important conversation in CTV, in Global, in CBC. You know, are we going to cover the by-election? You know, it is, after all, the leader of the party, the leader of the Conservative Party, not currently the leader of the opposition, but leader of the party. You would expect that should be of national interest, but yeah, I'm not aware that CTV, Global, CBC, or others are, or even CPAC. Like, I was at YouTube wondering if CPAC would be covering the election, and they aren't. Literally, we're just staring at the Elections Canada
Which is zeros right
table, bunch of
now.
zeros right now.
I think why they didn't want to actually, not a lot of media outlets wanted to pick up other candidates or even bother to really talk about the election outside of just simple policies, was just that I think the attitude of this election is just that Pierre Poilievre is just going to win. No point in talking about anybody else. Doesn't matter if it's any work's being put in. Doesn't matter if anything else is happening. Why bother? And I think we saw this a lot with the bigger news, where it was mostly, honestly, shout out to the private local news companies that have clutched up in this election, that actually made an effort to reach out to all the candidates so people could hear those perspectives and actually followed it through and throughout. I know we had, I think there was a small news outlet from Stettler, is like Farming News Now, that was literally on every single day making a post about what candidates were talking about agriculture, what candidates were talking about the issues of Stettler. And I mean, I got to give them props for that. Like, even though CBC can't make the effort, we have all these small private news outlets that were actually making the effort. And I got to give them massive props for that.
Yeah, I shout out to the local news organizations as well. Like, even during the last federal election, we saw, you know, Discover Airdrie and Cochrane Now. They were covering the local issues and covering the local candidates. Like, they interviewed me, and like, I just really appreciate the work that the local news organizations were doing. And now Alec is with us. Alec, let us know.
Back, man.
I hope this is working.
We hear you,
yeah,
and we see
we hear you, man.
Finally,
so please,
okay.
Yeah. Please introduce yourself, and what highlights are you hoping to see tonight?
So I'm Alec Guggenmos. I am the social media manager for the Libertarian Party. I am from Yorkton, Saskatchewan, but I'm currently calling in from Thompson, Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having some issues, as usual, with my live stream. But what I'm hoping for this by-election is sort of not if I'm going to say not specific to our own results, of course, is sort of I want some good results from a bunch of the different third parties, because everywhere you turn when it came to like projections and just like predictions is they weren't mentioned. There was maybe one projection that I saw on Twitter or X, and that included a bunch of the third parties, including us, and the rest of them were all just the major parties. And I think if we can get a good strong showing of third parties in this, maybe in the future we might see projections start to include third parties a bit more.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch for as well. I'm going to zone out a little bit. I want to look at some past information about Libertarian Party in this. Like, do we know if a candidate has ever run in this riding in the past? Michael might be the first. I want to go and verify that.
I believe I'm the first candidate, at least, because this riding has changed.
It's a new.
It's new. I mean, it was part of the reshuffle. Linden, Carbon, all those towns out west, like they were not originally part of the riding. That was added in like the last 4 years. However, to my knowledge, in the area of Drumheller up to Camrose has not had a candidate. Actually, hold on. I think there was one that ran in 2015 when Tim Moen was the leader of the party. I don't believe after the fact there was, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've done some exploring about past candidacies in my region, and the shuffling of ridings definitely makes it hard to go back on find records of any race, no matter if it's one that includes libertarians.
Honestly, I'm honestly curious to see how my ballot neighbor is going to do. The centrist guy, he's next to me on the list, and you know, I saw his leader making a big deal out of this election, but I don't think I've seen much out of the candidate himself. I don't think they have a social media presence. But no, I'm honestly curious to see how they're going to do as well too, because they're another third party that, like Kenneth, I believe, didn't really do too much campaigning, but they still were another party that put their name forward. So still got to give them big props for that.
I think they came in really late, which didn't help. Because they weren't invited to any of the forums, which really does a campaign in for sure, especially one of this caliber.
Honestly, I'm very disappointed by a lot of the candidates that ran in this election. I feel like even if we get out of campaigning wise, I mean, we had the Liberal Party, we had the Green Party, we had the People's Party, where they were acting like this was a high school homework assignment, where they posted their information to Elections Canada, a minute before the office closed, and like they didn't get on the ballot till the very, very last day, where they technically weren't even a candidate. And I'm honestly disappointed by that as well too, because like, I mean, it was literally for a point in time, it was literally just me, Pierre Poilievre, Bonnie, and Grant for like a month, and that was it.
I do want to answer a question in the chat here.
Sure.
No, the Canadian Future Party didn't run a candidate, which surprised me a little, because I was expecting out of most of the third parties that the CFP was going to be one of the ones to give it a try.
Funny that the youth leader, I believe, of the Future Party also did an interview on me. That was the one that was just posted a couple hours ago. Interesting lad, interesting guy.
The Youth Party,
or sorry, the youth leader of the Future Party.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm going to put something on screen here.
So true.
Here's some information about the candidates, the number of candidates that the Libertarian Party of Canada has run in elections since 1979. So our party was founded in 1973. I think that makes it 51 years old. And we ran 16 candidates in the most recent federal election, and which is, let's say, just less than median. I haven't done the math here to figure out what's the average or the median, but only 8 in 2004. That was unfortunate. But clearly, look at that: 1979, 60 candidates; 1980, 58; 72 candidates; 88 candidates in 1988. Um, that's quite interesting history there.
Well, wasn't there was some sort of law that was passed in the late '90s there that pretty much dissolved all of the minor parties because you needed like they had some absurd requirements to stay registered. I believe I couldn't tell you which exactly the details on that, but I read in a little bit on that too because I saw a bunch of the histories, a bunch of the parties were during that early 2000s. There a bunch of them folded.
Well, thank you, David, for representing Alberta during the last federal election, man. We appreciate it. I hope we can run a full slate of Albertan candidates for 2029.
Yeah, I was the lone Albertan Libertarian candidate. Happy to do that. I'm working on some technical issues in the background here, so
No worries.
carry
So,
on.
Michael, how does it feel to still currently be tied for first? You
No,
are.
I know I'm neck and neck with Pierre Poilievre. Like I said, we're still competing until the first ballot comes in. But honestly, I mean, like I said, like this is a big moment. Like we've put in a lot of work over the last 4 months to get to this point. So honestly, I'm just curious to see how this is all going to turn out because I know a lot of the other candidates like Grant. I know Pierre Poilievre's been out here in this election as well too, and me and Bonnie. And I'm honestly just like between the four of us, I just want to see who ends up with a good amount of the share here because. I know, like I said, there's quite a lot of other candidates where I'm not going to be really worrying about them too much because I know they're probably not going to get that much out of this election.
Hey, we have a great question that we could discuss here. Marty Jones asked, what do you all think of the longest ballot committee? I have my opinions. Alec, over to you.
The longest ballot committee. I just want to preface. I am a fan personally of election reform. I made it back when I ran in the last election. I made it a personal goal of mine to support election reform. However,
Update. Hold that thought. We have one poll reporting of 286. Let's see.
Oh my goodness.
No numbers yet. Alec, back to you. Oh, I got excited there.
Oh,
we do have some results. Look at this. So we have 1 for People's Party, 2 for Green, 4 United Party of Canada, 9 NDP, 11 Liberal, and 22 Independent, with 437 so far for the Conservatives. Excellent. Carry on. Back to you, Alec.
Okay. Yeah, I am a fan of election reform, but I think that it's the way that they're doing it is distracting away from their actual goal. And they pride themselves. They say that they pride themselves on being sort of a decentralized group, but I think because of that, the way that they don't really market themselves, the idea of what they were doing was very quickly misconstrued by a lot of people, and it's still being misconstrued. So I'm not a big fan of, even if I wasn't running and I wasn't part of the Libertarian Party, I probably wouldn't throw my hat in the ring even as a fan of election reform, because I don't think that the way that they're doing it is very effective, nor is it a good representation of those who are fighting for election reform. But also, yeah, they like when they ran in Pierre Poilievre's riding in the general election, and even now, due to this lack of like promoting what they're actually trying to accomplish, it just became this big poop shoot of nobody really knowing what's going on. A bunch of people are claiming that it's election interference, and that it's the Liberals doing it. Oh, it's this group doing it. And I just think even if someone may believe that their goals are noble, that they needed to do it a lot better. And I think that their reputation is essentially ruined, even if they tried to turn around and improve their methods.
That's interesting.
I have a bit of a more negative opinion in my case, because I mean I'm the guy who's obviously running on the grounds here. That I've seen quite a bit that this election has turned pretty damn toxic because of these guys running here, whether it be their own candidates who are, committing crimes or going on online harassing people, or whether or not it be the people themselves that are in the riding that are obviously turned off from supporting a third party or alternative candidate. Because half the time you go into talking and knock on a person's door is, you tell them, hi, my name is Michael Harris. I'm running with the Libertarian Party. And they think that I'm running as an independent. So half the conversation starts as, I'm not independent. I'm actually here living in the riding. I want to represent you. Here's actually my actual platform points. I'm not working with Thomas. I'm not working with any of these people. That's half the damn conversation. And I mean, I have my own personal gripes. Like there was an issue back in a couple of months ago, whether or not that there was a guy who was impersonating me in this election to get signatures. There was a part where Thomas held up a piece of paper saying, we have enough signatures for you to run in the election. Just come and put your name down and we'll get you in, which is illegal because when you go to collect your signatures, you have to put your name at the top. You can't just leave it blank and then just photocopy and put another person's name at the top. And if that video was true and not like AI or like deepfake or whatever, Thomas is in some big trouble because, well, that's illegal. You can go to jail for that. And if that's the case of why these 200 candidates are running, then that's just pure fraud at this point.
Yeah. My opinion on the longest ballot committee is, well, I like the outcome actually, but let me back up a bit because Alec, I want to disagree with you on a couple of points here. Oh, we have a libertarian vote. Michael Harris, look at this. We have another
pop the champagne. Let's
I'm
go.
not neck and neck
So
with,
four polls
Kenneth
we have 4 polls reporting, and we have Michael on the board. Look at that. We've got the Marijuana Party on the board also. A couple of independents. That's interesting. So some of these independents might have voted for themselves if they were actually in the riding. That's interesting. But congratulations, Michael. There you are.
Woo.
1 vote so far.
We'll just ignore the fact that Pierre Poilievre has already passed 1,000 already.
Now, longest ballot committee. We were just talking about that. My opinions are, Alec, I disagree that it's decentralized. They might argue that it's some sort of decentralized organization, but no, it's one person's name as an official agent for 200 different. That's not the definition of decentralized. I would love to debate you about election reform, but that's for another night. I'll just close on the fact that I think that the outcome of the longest ballot committee is really, really awesome. And what I mean is people that go and vote in this by-election have to actually write the name of their candidate. And I love that. I think every election forevermore should be that way, that when you show up to the ballot box, you have to write the name of your preferred candidate. Because here's the thing. I dislike the idea that people don't pay attention, but then they show up at the ballot box and they just vote by default for whatever their preferred party is. And you should pay attention enough that you at least know the name and spelling of your preferred candidate. Let's just go see here. Still 4 polls reporting of 286.
No, I quite like it as well too. Like my always big thing is that when you go into a ballot box, are these people actually voting for the person that's going to represent their riding, actually help them locally here, or are they just voting because a rock is blue or red? And I think that was quite a bit in the actual election itself, where a lot of people were just looking, okay, we're voting for Mark Carney, we're voting for Pierre Poilievre, but I don't actually know anything about the person running. And so I think this is actually a good idea because we're actually having people where you have to be personal with your candidate. You actually have to know the person who's running and make an effort to put their name in. And especially if they have a more like complicated name as well too, that means you have to get even more personal with them because you have to know it by heart as well too. I know people are concerned about whether or not people are going to spell Pierre Poilievre right or not, but obviously 1,000 people are not having too many issues with that. So I'd have to agree
Let's.
with it, honestly.
I think it's worth giving some credit to the the runner-up here. Bonnie Critchley has currently 84. She's running in second. You met Bonnie a few times, at least once in the Camrose debate, maybe in person at other events as well. What was your, you know, impression of her behind the scenes? Did you get a chance to talk with her?
I did. There was a couple of debates where we had more than an hour where we could speak individually with each other. I mean, the Camrose one was probably the best example of this because, I mean, not to bash Pierre Poilievre again, but he was 52 minutes late, which allowed us to be have a little bit more time in the back to chat. My opinions on her are a bit mixed because she was obviously in the back was very nicely. She wasn't there to attack anybody. She wasn't there to start any fights. Though, as most people know, she is very tough with her beliefs. If you got her going, you would be starting an actual argument that you probably would be fighting for quite some time. I think she was in some cases, a bit hot-headed in a lot of issues. Where I mean, I think in the Camrose debate, she was like, I love people who can speak with emotion. It's better than monotone people or those that are reading off a script. I mean, we had people who were reading off a script in that debate. However, it came off as, there was one part where she was like, I don't want people to go and get an education or go into trades, when she obviously meant that she wanted people to go into, or what was it, that she wanted to increase the barriers for people to go into trades. And because of that, it makes the whole point of what she's actually trying to say look a lot more foolish. So I don't know. I think there's some merit to what she did. She obviously put in the work. She put in 20,000 kilometers into this election. I did exactly the same thing, so I know the amount of work that she must have put in for it. So I got to give her credit for it. But at the end of the day, I disagree with her politically. She's flip-flopped quite a bit on some issues. The reason why I don't like Pierre Poilievre sometimes is because he's a flip-flopper. He's flip-flopped on a lot of things. And Bonnie herself was a bit of a flip-flopper, where she said that she was a centrist, or she's flipped being a conservative, and some debates even said that she supported what Mark Carney was doing. So, I mean, where does she actually land? Is she a true centrist in that regard? And if so, why do you compare yourself to saying that you're a conservative one minute or a liberal the next? Just say you're a centrist and stay at that.
That was my impression too of her, watching her in the debate, that I couldn't quite picture, like, when you have a good conversation with someone with convictions and they've thought carefully about their position on things. Once you understand their position on one issue, you can start to deduce what they might believe about other issues. Like the two of you, I know that your preference generally is that government shouldn't intervene where we should keep limits on government to their proper role and such. And based on that, I can deduce what you might think on any issue. Like, what would you think about the carbon tax, or firearms rights, or foreign affairs? Like, but with her, I couldn't quite place her in the spectrum. It seemed like on some issues she was very conservative. On other issues, she was very collectivist. I just couldn't figure her out.
Yeah.
But 84 people have already cast their vote for her. That's interesting.
One of my most concerning things I think about her, in my opinion, was I think her and the New Democrat candidate talked about bringing back the wheat board, or at least pushing towards bringing back the wheat board if elected as well too, which, I mean, that's a pretty crazy thing to say while you're in a riding that is predominantly either wheat or canola farmers, where, most of these people have already been settled in after you took it away, and you want to bring it back. You're just causing another, just wanting to create another disaster with these people. Whether or not you agree that you want a wheat board or not, at the end of the day, you can't keep thrusting back in a policy which limits, who they can sell to. And farmers can't rely on flip-flop. And same thing with politicians. Why they can't rely on a politician to keep flip-flopping, they can't have an economy that flip-flops, because that's not sustainable.
Checking in on our chats. By the way, there's about 205 people tuning in. I really appreciate everyone that's watching. Again, if there's something you want us to discuss, ask a question or prompt us. If there's something that you want us to put on screen, if there's something going on X or YouTube that you think is of interest to this by-election, let me know and I'll put it on screen.
I do
yeah.
gotta say, if you don't mind,
Of course.
what we were talking about before about just like people voting for a party and not actually knowing who they're running for, just total honesty, the fact that the NDP and the Green candidate are two of the top 6 right now, I think is an example of that, because I know, like, I don't want to start any sort of draw. I don't think they were great candidates, especially for that riding, for different reasons. But here it is. They're, especially the NDP candidate, who's currently tied for 4th. And
she magically insulted everybody in Camrose during the debate. I don't know if you saw that. And Michael, you know the moment I'm talking about.
Check our privilege, guys.
What was the reaction in the room?
It depends. You had the left side of the room. There was about 3 or 4 different auditoriums where people were sitting. Majority of the people on this side were the Saskatchewan people that Pierre Poilievre busted, and then you had all the people on the left side, which was a mix between like either the people that I invited into the event, or you had Darcy's people or Bonnie's people. And they were the only ones, all the guys on the left side, to actually support her and what she said. And everyone else on the right side going this way were booing her after what she said. Because, I mean, even if she had a point to what she was saying, it made absolutely no sense why she would start the conversation talking about her university degrees, her affluent lifestyle choices, and then immediately say that everyone else is privileged. Because that's a bad look. Like, you can't talk about how, you know, it's honestly a privilege to be able to go to university, to have comfortability in life, especially in Canada. And then you tell the crowd that they're privileged while you yourself are privileged. It just gives me the opinion that it's a bad look. Honestly,
it was a bad look. Yeah. And I'm glad to hear that the reaction in the room reflected that. By the way, congratulations, Michael. You now have 4. We're up to 4 votes. Let's just check in on the stats.
Oh boy,
we have 10
ladies and gentlemen.
We have 10 of 286 polls currently reporting. 3,325 votes so far counted, and 4 of them are yours. So congratulations.
Nice.
You're ahead of the Marijuana Party.
I hope so.
The Christian Heritage Party, Jeff Willerton, he was pretty articulate during that debate as well.
Yeah. I mean, my only problem with Jeff was that he read from a notebook in all the debates. I think he was kind of put on a little bit on his toes during the Toefield one, because it was an actual debate. People were actually, you know, going back and forth on their issues. However, I noticed, especially in the Stettler debate, where, I mean, if you go back in the recording, he barely lifted his head. He was just pretty much just reading off the notes, which made it be like, you know, he's saying some good things. I loved how he was talking about removing the income tax, you know, stuff like that. I'm all in favor of. But if you're not willing to say it from the heart, or at least like look back at your audience, I mean, it looks a little bit colder in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was sort of one of those things where I was surprised, because he has ran in multiple elections at different levels in the past. So I sort of expected him to give a similar sort of showing as the United Party leader, Grant Abraham, or Abram, one of the two. I don't remember exactly how to pronounce it, but because he's like, Willerton's ran in a bunch of elections. So I expected him to be a bit more of a public speaker than he was, but who knows? I guess it's also a personality thing when it comes to
12
running.
Polls reporting. We're going to get some new numbers here. Michael, you're up to 5.
Huge boys.
Yeah, excellent. You're closing the gap on the Green Party. I mean, that would be kind of interesting.
Listen, all I hope for at the end of the night is I end up, like, there were some parts where I was polling above the New Democrats at some points in the election. So I mean, I think if I could get above the Green People's Party and even get close to beating the NDP, I think that might be an absolute victory tonight, honestly.
I want to just comment on, sorry to interrupt, Libertarian Party in New Brunswick comments that PPC is down to 13. Did we notice was the PPC at 14 and then was adjusted down to 13? I didn't notice that, so I'm sorry. But if you have record of that might be interesting. Go over to you, Alec.
I was just going to say that these results are probably going to be a little bit jumpy because it of course different polls are going to give you different results are going to give you different numbers. Like if you're because you visited a lot of towns, right?
Yeah.
And did full towns. So I feel like certain places like that where you put a lot of focus on those, when those come in, you're probably going to get bigger jumps in your numbers. But if
And
someplace you weren't able to get to,
yeah,
you might have a little bit where you get 1 or 2 come in.
and especially
So I
during
wouldn't worry
this
too
election
much.
too, because like this election has had such like far apart towns. Like it was so hard that there's some towns where there's like 30 people in them, and it's just like I wanted to go to them, but it's just like it's such a far distance compared to like going in Calgary. Like if I run here in Calgary or something, like compared to Confederation, where the university is located, you could go across the street and that's the end of the riding. So I mean, I focus majority, at least in the west and mid parts of the riding for this election. So we'll see how many of those areas ended up switching Libertarian over this election. But yeah.
Question in the chat. We have Victor Emmanuel asks, what did you think of Pierre bringing a bus from out of the riding?
Well, we had quite a big Pierre Poilievre group in Camrose. We had a lot of people obviously cheering for Pierre Poilievre. There was a big moment in the night. I'll give Bonnie some props for this, that she asked who in this room can actually vote. And it was pretty much anybody on the left side of the room said they could. Oh my goodness. I'm getting like mass calls here. Sorry, I apologize.
Good for you. There's people congratulating you.
I'll have to call some people back after this vote, but you know, most of the people in that room couldn't vote. And I think they got caught in this because they tried to do this again in Drumheller, where they brought a whole bunch of people from Calgary and outside of the riding. I know there's a lot of UFC conservatives that showed up outside of the debate. But if you didn't bring your ID and didn't show that you were a citizen of Drumheller or had previously registered with the actual town that you were coming to the debate, you weren't let in. And so there was a lot more actual city people that were allowed to show up for it. So like it goes both ways. I would have hoped more local people would have showed up for the Camrose debate, and it's depressing to see that there was more out-of-towners, but the other 3 debates allowed for more local people, which is still good in my book, in my opinion.
I think stuff like that I think sort of shows that despite how much the conservatives sort of put it off as they weren't scared of what this result might be today and what that impact is on the future of Pierre's leadership and the party as a whole. But stuff like that, where they're bringing in people to try to make it look like his support's potentially bigger than it is, and I've seen posts of from like MPs, conservative MPs, where they came into the riding with their like staffers and were knocking on doors, and then I saw one where it was some conservative MP, I'm not sure where from, but her and her group were running the phones. They were phoning people in the riding, and it's like they were bringing in like essentially support from all across the country to try to really get things going here, and it's like you can't really say that, oh, well, we're not worried, it's a conservative stronghold, we're not worried, like if he wins by whatever, it's whatever. If it seems like they put in like almost a province's worth of effort in like a normal general election into one riding just for the by-election.
Well, let's keep in mind that they have an engine running. Like the major parties, and I learned this when I was a scrutineer in the 2021 election. And it was the first time I volunteered as a scrutineer, and it's really cool to do that because you get to see behind the scenes how things operate in the polls throughout the day, and you could pop in and visit the different polls, and then you're there at the count at night. But But one of the things I saw is that the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, to some extent the ADP Party federally, they have an engine that they call Get Out the Vote. And so they've got people on the phones, and they've got the people running the lists, and they've got scrutineers that go to the poll and they take photographs of the current electors list, and they send that back to headquarters, and then they get on the phone and they call, hey, so and so, we noted that you hadn't yet voted. Would you like a ride? And they have buses running around the towns and to pick up people to get down to the ballot box, and so for the Conservative Party to not take this by-election seriously would be a surprise to me. I think that they probably took it seriously, and they just engaged that engine. And for them to turn on that engine is pretty easy. They just, ask for volunteers, and then they give people a script, and they get the people on the phone, and that's how it works.
Yeah, where was I going with this? My brain is apparently my mouth is moving faster than my brain at the moment.
Let's ask for some context here on this next message here from Gerald. So, Gerald, hello. You're in the riding, and we appreciate your attention here tonight, and that you've joined the session. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about this. You're scared of the Conservatives removing my Tinders and my Hinges on my phone. My friends told me they will do this. Is this true?
I'm getting the impression this is a troll question.
Oh yeah, I think they're referencing the dating apps, Tinder and Hinge.
So that tells you my age. I've just dated myself, and I'm married, so I don't know anything about Hinges.
I don't think there's any worries that the Conservatives are going to be removing or banning dating apps from any of our phones.
So Gerald, if in fact you are trolling, then you got me. Or I don't understand the context, and please follow up with another question about that.
And it looks like we are going to be potentially receiving a question from our friends at the BC Libertarian Party, going by their previous message. Must be quite the one that they're writing out so far.
Question is from Alex, leader of the BCLP. Yeah, which question though?
I'm assuming they're writing it. I assume
okay.
It's sort of
they'll get to it eventually.
Preamble.
Gerald, I'm glad we sorted that out for you. Let's go back to the poll, the information here. We've got 15 polls reporting. 4,004 voters so far have been counted. It's still a pretty small percentage. What's that?
Oh, yeah. The fact, though, there is a bit of I'm surprised that none of the other candidates have also hit past 1,000 votes yet. I would have expected that Bonnie at least would have gone past 1,000 by now.
Well, she's pulling ahead of the Liberals with a fair margin there.
There's no questions asked.
Almost exactly double. She's almost exactly doubled the Liberal vote, Darcy Spady.
What's very interesting, and I think
are hovering at 5. That's really good. Let's just look though.
Is that the United Party is actually beating the People's Party right now?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have to say, Jonathan Bridges, in the Camrose debate that I watched, I think he's a really likable guy. I think that he's not a public speaker, and he said as much. Like, he admitted that this is kind of new to him, but he spoke with authenticity. I appreciated that. I liked his responses to many of the questions. I think that I think with some coaching in terms of public speaking, he could do much better.
Well, I know that I was a little surprised. I don't want to push too hard on the guy, but I was surprised that he did run for them in the for the PPCs in the same riding in the general election. I don't know if it was because, from what I heard, I don't know for sure, but that only one candidate showed up to the one candidates forum during the general election. That maybe that was actually his first really public speaking in that sort of manner experience was at the Camrose debate.
Yeah. My thing with Jonathan, and I think he said it himself as well too. He is not a politician. He is a blue collar worker, and I think that call probably stopped him a lot with a lot of this election. Where I mean, I go on his Instagram right now, and it's been dead since the spring of this year. You go on his Twitter or his website, and it's it's just a whole bunch of reposts from Maximilian Bernier. So. I mean, I'd assume this man has been going around outside of the independence panels talking with people, but, my problem is I don't think he's shown it too much. I think that's going to be to his detriment, which is allowing people like Grant, as an example, to probably come in and beat him in this election.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
yeah, and
Alex,
sorry.
Go ahead, and then I've got a question from the chat that I want to address. But go ahead, Alex.
Yes, I think this by-election was a really good choice for the United Party. They're new, like fairly new, and being that they're sort of like a very social conservative party, I think this was a very good riding for them to first start to really try to get out there in, and I think it's showing because even like the Christian Heritage Party is doing really well. So I think this is the sort of riding that those sorts of parties excel in is the ones that have a fairly strong Christian demographic.
Yeah. Okay, so Snarky has raised an issue here. The BC Libertarian Party has asked, with write-in ballots, would spelling mistakes potentially cost a candidate? I can answer this from the perspective of a past scrutineer volunteer, but Michael, I wonder, did Elections Canada contact you about this? Did they inform you? What was the official advice?
So the official advice was that as long as the intention was plain and simple on the ballot, that they would not spoil it. As an example, if it was Michael Harris but with an EA instead of an AE, that it would still count towards my ultimate vote. However, they did say that if it was marginally screwed up, or if it only encountered the first name, or if it was like Pierre conservative, it would not count. You would need, if it was really screwed up, like say if they messed up like half the letters, they would have to have a scrutineer come and save it, because they were planning on just throwing away if not.
Okay, yeah, I knew that. Like I heard that they announced that the certain spelling mistakes was going to be accepted, but I wasn't quite sure. They didn't really say any sort of detail on what that meant.
Yeah. I don't think I should have any problem with my name. I mean, like, besides the EA factor, which they made sure that's not going to be an issue, that I don't think anybody will have a problem putting it in Michael Harris.
I think the issue that I have come up with regards to your name is the fact that it's almost too common, Michael.
Yeah, 100%.
You got to like use your middle initial or something now, because when you search up Michael Harris on anything, it's baseball, or I think there's a politician in Eastern Canada.
Yeah, there was an MP. His name was Mike Harris.
Yeah.
No relation, but he was an MP for a time.
Yeah. So I was trying to use, being a big social media guy, I was trying to keep track of people mentioning you and your campaign, and I'd search up Michael Harris, and I learned a lot about Atlanta Braves baseball that I didn't know about before.
Very interesting. So no new polls. 20 new polls. 20 of 286. So that's almost 10%. Sorry, 7% of the polls so far. Bonnie Critchley in second place. Michael Harris holding strong at 5 votes above, and then that's one past the Marijuana Party. The Green Party is pulling ahead of you a little bit. This is kind of fun. It's like watching a horse race in slow motion, though. It's like a slow motion horse race.
So the real question is, at what point do we call it for Mr. Poilievre?
I don't know yet.
He's ahead here.
Maybe about 3 months ago.
Oh yeah. You know,
But
honestly, I mean, he's doing a lot better than I thought he was going to do. I mean, a lot of people on the ground
Okay.
were talking about not voting for him. There were people that
Mhm.
were worried about him, being a parachute candidate. I always thought personally that he was going to get probably anywhere from 65 to about 75%. But I mean, honestly, looking at it tonight, he might even get past 75%. Honestly, good on him, man.
there's always the question is like there's a lot of people may say that they don't like him and that they're not going to vote for him, but being that especially that it's a by-election, did those people even go out and vote today? Like, did the people who don't like him really did they go through the effort to go and voting against him today? Because that's by-elections are always funny. I know that speaking of by-elections, of course, the one of our questions was just asked by Alex Joel, who ran for us in a by-election in 2024, which had a almost historically low turnout out in BC. So by-elections are always funny in that way, where there is almost sort of a generally the turnout ends up being lower. And in this
People
case,
just
I
phone
think,
it in.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might be that in this riding, people are just, oh, Pierre's going to win it, so I'll stay home.
Yeah. You'd think you'd see more opposition. You'd think especially the Pierre haters, you'd think they would want to show up to vote against him, because they want him gone past January,
Yeah, like what about all these folks on the longest ballot committee, and they're still showing 0 votes. Like they didn't even vote for themselves.
Centrist
Well,
still has 0
because
votes.
really, oh, we've
Yep.
got new numbers here. 23 polls reporting so far. Michael's still at 5. Pierre, of course, pulling ahead. But look at that. Bonnie is again double the Liberal Party, and she's maintaining 2x the Liberal Party. That's interesting.
I'm not too surprised by her sort of pulling away from the Liberal candidate, especially due to the fact she started her campaign quite a bit earlier. Like the Liberals didn't announce; they announced it. It was not too long after. He was one of the first ones to get announced, and I think there's been sort of this movement within some of the Liberals to sort of push the Bonnie Critchley's campaign. As sort of this united front against Pierre. At least this is what I've sort of heard here and there on social media, is that this is sort of an expected thing that the Liberals would actually potentially lose a vote share from the general election to Bonnie Critchley as sort of especially because she is a centrist. I know you talked about before how centrist is sort of a funky term because
Especially with her.
one centrist can be so much different than another person who calls themselves a centrist. But I think that there was enough overlap with those who are some people who may have voted Liberal in the general election that I don't think I'm too surprised by her pulling away from the Liberal candidate.
I just want to point out, in my door knocking crusade, I only saw 3, actually, I think probably about 4 actual signs that were on someone's property from her, and they were all in cameras. I didn't see any other signs outside of the main cities, especially out in the rural areas. I didn't even see some of the signs on the road. I think she predominantly focused, I know she took some photos in some other areas, but I think she predominantly focused on probably Stettler and Camrose a little bit, or actually quite a bit in this election, actually. And I think especially in Hannah, where, probably our biggest presence during this election, we probably had about I'd say about 12 or so houses that had our sign out front. I don't think I saw even a single Bonnie sign even on the highway. So I think definitely in the rural areas, she has still a lot of work to get to, in my opinion.
Some chat comments. Let's just check in with a few. I'm seeing Snarky Trader Pierre Poilievre does have a lot of Alberta support. We can't deny that. I want minimal government, but his media presence is large enough to capture a lot of people. That's true. A lot of people are apolitical, though. Is that true? I mean, apolitical. Does that mean that someone is like deliberately so, or does that mean they're just not paying attention?
No, honestly, like I said, when I talk to some of these people in some of these towns where they just want to be left alone from the government, really, they just want to be left alone. A lot of people, I came up to them and started talking to them. They would have plenty of stories to talk about their day or how the government's screwing them over. But then when you tell them, hey, even if you're not going to vote for me, are you still going to be able to go into this election? You vote for a candidate. And they were saying that they gave up on democracy a long time ago, that they don't even want to go out and vote. So you had that as well, to that aspect where you had like these really, really rural people that don't believe that any meaningful change is going to happen from the government at all. And it's actually sapped their spirit when it comes to democracy as well, too. So that also might be, we might see that as a factor as well, too, with actual turnout at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Comment
I
here.
can.
Alec,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, I was going to change topic, but let's stay on.
As a person who also ran in a very rural riding, I can say that, like, especially in since it's going to majority be conservative ridings, because conservative ridings tend to be won by a lot more than liberal ridings, despite the fact that liberals win more ridings. Is that I think there has, especially I assume there's probably a similar situation out in Battle River Crowfoot as in my riding, that there's almost this almost apathy politically, where people just know, okay, this one candidate's going to win by like just a ridiculous amount, and nothing I can do is going to change that. So why should I even pay attention? Because when I was knocking on doors back in April, I had a lot of people who I would ask, like, have you thought about who you're going to vote for? And they just go, I don't know, we haven't really, but we might just like talk about it over supper one day. Like, there was just so much, and like I did. There's only one forum, unfortunately, in my riding during the elections, and
you did a great job, by the way.
Thank you. And this makes this fact even worse. Maybe about 30 people showed up.
And
it
sounded like a bigger room than that. Like I was watching.
Yeah, it was big room, not a lot of people. But
wow.
Yeah, I don't know how many people listened to it on the radio and on live streams, because it was a pretty bad weather day that day. But overall, like, there was only 30 people there, so I do think that in a lot of these rural ridings that are won consistently by one party so often, that there is a bit of a political apathy there, where people just sort of check out.
Yeah, I see. Checking in on some of the questions here. There was one I wanted to address. Do we think that the Air Canada strike and the government response made the Liberals' numbers crumble down? Not in this by-election. I doubt that the Air Canada situation has changed anyone's mind in Battle River Crowfoot. What are your thoughts about that?
Nationwide, I think the NDP are probably jumping for joy at the whole situation, because of course they're in pretty dire straits as a party, and just I don't know if it will, but I think that if they try to capitalize on it, I think this is a good opportunity for the NDP to sort of kick themselves back into growing again.
Yeah, I don't think it's really affecting this election. I think it happened way too soon for it to really change people's minds. If they liked Darcy and wanted to vote for him, they were already going to do that regardless. Yep. Like Alec was saying, though, nationally, this is going to have very big consequences for the Liberal Party. Where, I mean, I think we can see it now, where Swampy is doing probably a lot better than the NDP candidate that was doing during the federal election. We're going to see a lot more of those NDP Liberals start slowly start actually coming back to the New Democratic Party, especially because of this. A lot of people are not happy with Mark Carney with relation to this strike.
Let's make note of something happening in the numbers here. Michael holding steady at 5, but look at this. Now, in between you and the Green Party is Sarah
Oh boy.
Spanier. So this was the independent candidate that was also at the Camrose debate. I don't know if she was at other debates. She's now got 10 votes, so she's pulling ahead of us at Libertarian. That's interesting because where was she in the previous polls? It wasn't until the recent polls reported their numbers that all of a sudden she appeared in these results.
She was sitting at about 4 votes previously. And I was going to comment on that a little bit, but then I think this is one of those cases, like I mentioned before, where it's going to highly depend on which poll is being brought in at what time, because she focused, I think, heavily on sort of a younger demographic. She was big on TikTok, and if you did watch any of her interviews and stuff, she talks very much like she's talking to a younger demographic, millennials, Gen Z, stuff like that. So I think it's going to be, I think certain polls, especially more of the, if you can call any poll in the riding urban, I think it would be the more urban ones are going to be, she might get a couple of votes here and there.
Snarky Trader is reminding us that Kenneth Kirk has an inspiring voter base.
I was saddened by the fact that he's pulled so hard for Bonnie Critchley, because going like he's not the leader of the Marijuana Party, but the leader of the Marijuana Party has been very friendly in the past or throughout the last while with us as a party. So I was sort of saddened to see that their candidate decided to pull for somebody else.
Interesting.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, it's gonna be a race with Kenneth here. I mean, I'm beating him by 1 vote right now, but you know,
hey, you're up to 6.
Yeah, Bonnie was not happy that he endorsed her. I will say that.
Wow.
When I was sitting right next to Bonnie and Kenneth during the Stetler debate, and when he went up and said, "I endorse Bonnie Critchley to be our member of parliament," they didn't catch this. It would have been crazy if they did, but she was swearing. She was not happy that he said that, because I mean, free endorsement in my opinion, but she was like, well, I'm trying to run a serious campaign here and this guy looks like a joke, so that's the impression that she said relation to Kenneth. I mean, he came up to me after the Camrose debate. He's a nice chap. I won't be attacking him. He's a nice guy, but I mean, you can't really expect too much of a fully serious campaign from the Marijuana Party. I would have hoped that the Rhino Party would have ran, but I guess they ran 200 candidates. So, I mean.
Yeah. Good point. All right, let's change the topic just slightly. We've got a comment here from Hannah Robotaxi. I'd like to explore this a little bit. So, did Bonnie pull some votes from NDP, perhaps? Or from the Liberal?
I guess you could argue, because I think something that is very unique about the NDP is how they do have a bit of a diverse voter base depending on where in the country you are. Where I'm going to be honest, I do have some NDP voters in my family, but they're not the like super progressive, like they focus on all these progressive policies. They're the older style, where they like they're big on unions, and they like workers co-ops, and they're big on sort of crown corporations. So that's their big focus. They're very economically NDP, but they're not too big on the progressive side of it. I think that in that case, those sorts of NDP voters, I could potentially see pull for Bonnie Critchley, being that she does have some interesting economic views, and she has surprisingly, for someone who claims to be even a small C conservative, she definitely has very progressive social views. From some of the she didn't put a big focus on it, but from what I heard from her.
I mean, we're going to see a lower vote turnout for the Liberals and New Democrats, in my opinion, just because of that reason. A lot of people feel that, I mean, the NDP candidate said it the best herself, where, you know, I'm not running a serious campaign. I'm not going to win against Pierre Poilievre. At the end of the day, I think most of the Liberals and New Democrats kind of realized that it was kind of a tough campaign to begin with. They were pretty much up against a losing battle. And I think they kind of just somewhat unofficially agreed that Bonnie was going to be the serious candidate they were going to support. I mean, I didn't see too many NDP signs. People were talking a little bit earlier about Sarah Spanier. I don't think I saw a single one of her signs during the election at all. I saw Grant everywhere, though. I mean, this man probably put a couple $1,000s into signs for this election at least, because I think there was more Grant signs than there was Pierre Poilievre in this election.
Yeah, he's an interesting character, because I remember you sent people in chat. You did send me that picture of his trailer that he has, and
trailer, the semi. No, he
yes,
brought that for the camera
trailer.
today. That was funny as hell.
And I definitely do get he definitely gives me the vibe of he's almost like this sort of mega church preacher.
100%.
Is the vibe that I get from him, and very much like a cult of another party with sort of a cult of personality around its leader. Similar to the PPC, where everything's about the leader. That's all they really care about, and all the candidates just sort of exist for the purposes of being on the ballot.
So we have an interesting comment that I want to just highlight here. So Gerald Shepard might be our current hero in the chat. He'd like us to highlight the Mud Frog on Tractor Saves Cat in the Farm, Muddy Farm video. And I have one. I found it. Let's watch it.
I have no context of what this is about.
This is awesome. Oh, hold on. I have to make sure.
Oh no, it's
okay.
AI.
Yeah, don't.
Okay, you're gonna hear the video.
We're already off to a great
sound
start.
Here we go. I thought there was sound, but there's no sound. Oh well.
The sound's coming in for me.
Oh,
okay, so I do have a question for Michael. Michael.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you try to get some of the farmers to vote for you by suggesting that they get their cats and toads to help?
No,
No.
I did not know.
What was? Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. No, big mistake clicking on an AI video in the first place.
Oh,
it was hilarious. A cat in a plow with a frog, and
I just
guarantee we lost 20 people in the stream from that.
Are we the marijuana party or the Libertarian Party?
Yeah, David, I was just surprised that that you were the one who got the reference out of all of us.
He's been telling us to Google these things for like a half an hour. He's been telling us to search for all kinds of stuff. So here's this recent comment: how to use YouTube search while on Libertarian Live broadcast. Pierre Poilievre with funny frog video with cat plays on live stream.
Okay, I'm going to ask a serious question.
We have serious answers then.
Oh boy.
Michael.
Yes.
So you have mentioned that you have spoken to Pierre Poilievre, and I think this was in just a chat that we had, that you did mention that he has that in the back of some of these forums that he has spoken mostly like directly to you about libertarianism. And his belief that he is a libertarian.
Yeah. So we had two main ones. The biggest one was obviously the one in Camrose, because we actually had a private room. In Drumheller, it was very quick. Him and his wife came up to my table to say, like, thank you for coming. And very brief comments that he talked to me before we went onto stage. Camrose, though, we actually had a decent conversation before the actual debate started. I think it started, I don't think he was too interested in me and what the hell I was doing there until I was talking with Ashley, because we were talking about, like, Ashley's still going in university. He's still wanting to like learn more about politics. And then I was saying I'm at the University of Calgary. I'm studying politics to hopefully get into like international relations and stuff like that. And you know, he heard that and he immediately perked up. You know, like, oh my goodness, Michael, you know, I did that, right? And it started the whole conversation of, you know, I'm a libertarian too. I went to the University of Calgary. He was asking me a lot of the like what the professors were still doing. Like we had a couple of professors back in his day are no longer obviously with us anymore or still teaching at the University of Calgary. But it started going in very briefly before it started on policy and mostly his defense of like supply management and stuff like that. That's where those conversations led. And I wish we would have spoken longer. Honestly, we had a better conversation in Big Valley the other day when you know, the guy started following me around and he set up his little rally that he did. We had a better conversation then than we did at Camrose because there's an actual like, you know, an actual like conversation with both the people and the party at the same time.
And what was his what were his arguments for why he somehow is at least a self-proclaimed libertarian, but then goes against what, if you read any sort of libertarian books or any sort of the theory on libertarianism, that a lot of his policies go completely against that. So did he have any actual arguments?
So from what I got is that he was still operating partly off of like a mix between, I would like to say, like the national policy, like very old stock conservative policy. That's like the reasons he supports like supply management as an example. However, he thinks he's like more of a libertarian because he's a classic liberal. He believes in a smaller government, lower taxes, all of that type of stuff. And that, in his opinion, that gives him the right to believe that he's a libertarian. But I questioned him a little bit of other stuff like ending the drug war. And he was like, he's in favor of legalizing marijuana and trying to fight back against like the nicotine restrictions. You can't go to like to a gas station to pick up, you know, your Nick stick. And then I was asking about like the criminal treatments of people who have been, you know, like substances and stuff like that. And that's where he kind of just like tried to end topic. So like, I feel like he's definitely 100% more of a classic liberal. I probably wouldn't put him in the libertarian lens. I think he just says it so he can like, you know, look cool with the youngers. But really, I mean, I haven't actually been able to peg really where he's actually a libertarian, really, besides just he just wants smaller government.
Yeah, because I sadly, a lot of the time when I do a lot of, being the social media manager, I do a lot of sort of gauging of conversations about the party and about the movement, of course, about our candidates on different social media sites, and particularly X, because its search is way better than the others. Facebook, I have a whole bunch of issues with Facebook as a social media. And by the way, I am doing a presentation at the next convention as the social media manager, so I'll have a whole thing about that. But it's when you search up like libertarian and like like libertarian Canada or any sort of thing about, you get all these tweets, and especially on Reddit, because I have checked on there because there are big political talks on there, not really ones that are too friendly to libertarianism. But and I do all this, and you search up, and it's constantly about Pierre and Danielle Smith, and of course you guys, I think you guys could probably explain the Danielle Smith stuff a little bit more, both being Albertans. But they constantly get referenced as these sort of, they use libertarian to describe these people, and I'm just like, it's taking away from what we actually believe, and tossing it into this different type of conservatism. So I think you guys may have a better idea, because I had somebody, and I think Michael had the same person come into their onto their X accounts and comment, and they kept commenting this stuff about how we are running for the UCP, and that we're like
Yeah, no, I remember that. That was
Danielle Smith.
That was on Canada Day when we first announced the campaign. They were like, I think they were just a bot, because like, you know, you made a comment and they didn't say anything on the comment. They just replied it with like a dog emoji or like an XE emoji, and it was like, either you're either rage baiting or you're a bot. So like, I'm not like, it's not even like, I don't even know what to respond to some of these guys. But no, I think he was just trying to like spam a lot of our social medias with just garbage, because like he wasn't adding anything constructive. He didn't point out like why exactly we were running for Danielle Smith. If anything, I think we'd be running against her, since we're running against conservatives. But I don't ask me a lot, guys.
I did want to mention when we were talking prior about sort of the negative impacts of the longest ballot committee. One of those was, and especially you had that, you mentioned that you had a lot of conversations with people who initially took you knocking on their door negatively, because they suspected that you were part of the longest ballot committee. Was when you did that one sort of press release. It was the day that that all your paperwork was due, and you invited both the Green Party and the PPC Party candidates to endorse you if they weren't able to get their paperwork in properly. And a lot of the comments on there were from these people who were like super angry at you and saying that you're going to get arrested. And they wouldn't go into any detail on what they meant by that. And then it took me a bit, and I was like, oh, all these people think that you are, because you didn't mention that I don't think you mentioned in the actual thing, you may have mentioned in the video, but you didn't mention in the description that you were the Libertarian Party candidate. So I think a lot of the people were like, just, oh, this is one of those longest ballot people, and you're going to go to jail, and this is election fraud. So it's there's a lot of people. Social media is a very funny thing when it comes to politics, for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, no, that happened a lot, especially on like X, where like I was trying to pull up some criticism of Jonathan Bridges. Like I said, very good man, hard worker. At the end of the day, though, like as a big party, especially someone who was here in Drumheller during July 1st to be on the parade, it sure took you your sweet time to get your paperwork in order, where it was literally like the hour of that you submitted it. So I mean that's just a bad look on you, and your followers came after us in our chat, and I like that's my bad. I should have mentioned that I was from the Libertarian Party in the video, but I just assumed that had they would have clicked on the video, they would have just seen, oh, it was created by Michael Harris, the Libertarian candidate.
I couldn't like speaking of the PPC, I think that there was this was a big fumble by them. Being that they're sort of they're just similar to the NDP, but the NDP has a bit of an advantage of history and sort of a very, like they have a voter base that will vote for them no matter what, and they have seats. I think the PPC is in a similar situation where they're not in a great situation as a party. But they don't have these advantages, and I think this by-election was a really big opportunity for them to be able to sort of crawl back some of that support from the conservatives. And he seems like a great guy, but
do we have an opinion about why wouldn't Maxime Bernier run in this by-election? Like, I wonder if they talked about it, if the PPC might have considered that as a strategy for
I've
visibility
talked to
and.
a couple of previous People's Party candidates. I think we had the guy who was on the other day's stream. He was talking to me, and he thinks that honestly, Maximilian Bernie is on his way out. A lot of people think that he's going to retire here, that he's kind of getting burnt out from a lot of his stuff. I mean, I don't think he's really putting that much work into his party in the first place, but a lot of people are thinking that within the next couple of years here, he's going to hand the reins off to someone else anyway. So I don't think he even wants to run.
Yeah. Hey guys, there's lots of comments here. We should get some opinions about. Hannah Robotaxi. Where was the Alberta independence voters in this by-election? I expected more of us to see Michael, since he was the only candidate that spoke about independence. Pierre was clearly a federalist, along with all but Grant Abraham. Grant gave a half-hearted support of Alberta independence. So what's our opinion of this? Where were the Alberta independence voters? Who did they cast their vote for today in this by-election?
If they even voted. I mean,
If
some
they
of those
voted.
Alberta independence voters think that this by-election is a waste of time, because if a referendum's coming next year, then who cares? Whoever federal MPs are running this ride, and they're just going to get kicked out anyways. That was the mentality. I will say a lot of the independence people in the rural areas. I was able to convince a few, and I think their votes will probably come in at some point. But a lot of people who are true independence supporters, I don't think they're caring too much about this election. They just think the actual election is the referendum next year, and that's what matters.
All right. Let's get your reaction, Alec, on this one.
Justin Trudeau is a libertarian. If he secretly is, I go. If he wants to buy a membership, I think we would we would take it. Justin Trudeau is a libertarian. The thing is, I'd love to make some sort of point that he had some sort of, like, maybe one policy that was libertarian.
Don't say marijuana. Don't say marijuana.
But it's not marijuana, because it's still highly regulated.
Yeah, he didn't legalize marijuana as a libertarian. He did it for taxation, clearly.
And like, the only thing that I think him and I agreed on at one point was election reform, and he didn't even go through with it. So I have nothing. I'm sorry. I want to give some sort of maybe he has one liberty. I don't see it at all.
Mark Carney, on the other hand, he's the true libertarian, getting his tax breaks in the Cayman Islands,
Exactly. That man doesn't like taxes.
Compared to Justin Trudeau.
I'm going to get arrested, apparently. Alex, a snarky trader, making a joke, of course, because I've been eating cheese during the stream.
I did get, sadly, somebody said that they were going to donate $1,500 if I ate 3 ounces of butter. But sadly, I'm in a hotel. I don't have butter with me. So I don't think I have time to run to the store here in Thompson, Manitoba, to go get.
So this comment is from Michael, for Michael, I'm sure. If you could please read this and then respond.
Well, I'm going to be in politics for a while. Like, I might as well just make a pretty end speech here, pretty much, because I mean, Pierre Poilievre is doing pretty damn good in the polling right now. I'm a young lad. A lot of people have pointed this out in this election. I mean, I'm in my early 20s. I'm here for quite some time. I ain't gonna be retiring anytime soon, if I even can in this country anymore. But no, I'm here for the long term. I'm gonna be predominantly supporting the libertarian movement here in both Bell River Crowfoot as well as in Confederation on the U of C campus. There's still quite a lot of work to be done. I don't know whether or not Elections Canada will give me the full information of where these votes are coming from and whether or not we can find where they are. I have a distinct feeling they're either going to all come from Three Hills or Hannah, because those are like my 2 big towns that supported me in this election. So I won't even doubt that. But I just wanted to also say, I mean, most people are calling it. I know the news people are calling it, but I just want to say, congratulations to Pierre Poilievre on his victory in this election. I think he's pretty much got it. I don't think Bonnie got past 1,000 now, but I don't I honestly don't think she's going to be able to beat him now. So I'd like to congratulate him first and foremost for being able to win this election. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, like outside the libertarian perspective and the Libertarian Party here, I think Pierre Poilievre did a hell of a lot better than a lot of people thought he was going to do. I was worried come like April and especially early May when he first said he was going to run and then he was going to stay in Storwell to advise Andrew Scheer in the House of Commons. I thought he was literally going to run a ghost campaign from Ottawa and that he wasn't even going to show up here once. Maybe he did show up to a debate and that was it. I was honestly surprisingly shocked to see that he actually, at least in the last month, showed up and was in the riding every single day. So I'll give him that at least. I mean, I saw him once or twice on the campaign trail. I mean, for heck's sakes, we crossed paths into the co-event in Big Valley for heck's sakes. So, I mean, those were some pretty big wins right there. But at the end of the day, he put in the work. And I hope, honestly, if there's one thing, I mean, I know the Northern Perspective people talked about this, but on the stage, he looked really miserable when everyone else was talking. He wasn't actually wanting to listen to what any of the other candidates were saying. But, you know, when Michael Harris went up to speak, a lot of people, especially Pierre Poilievre and Damien in the stage, it was a bit intimidating. I don't know, Damien was giving me the eyeball look when the camera was debate. But, you know, they seemed like they were genuinely happy with what I was saying. And I really hope that if they did agree with some of those points, that if Pierre Poilievre is going to be the leader of the official opposition come past January and is obviously going to be my MP going forward, that he takes what I said to heart, that I wasn't trying to come after him as like, I hate him. You know, like I know there's some people online that are obviously calling for this man's death or his department or whatever. But at the end of the day, he's still a good man, and I hope he takes the issues that we have heard throughout this election and takes it seriously to Ottawa. Because people in this riding, they can't wait. They can't wait for flip-flops. They can't wait for indecision. Most of these people, like I said, the people that I've talked to believe that within the next 10 years, if there isn't a radical shift in our economy, if there isn't a radical shift in how government is treating rural Alberta, then they're going to have to move. They're going to have to leave out of this province. And that's honestly what I'm really worried about at the end of the day. I shouldn't have to care in an election who actually ends up winning, whether it be a Conservative, Liberal, or New Democrat. I care about my people and whether or not the people of Alberta and vice versa across Canada are going to get left behind, or if the government is just going to continue to take more and more and more. And most people think that way. So like I said, congratulations to Pierre Poilievre. He freaking earned it, man, for this election, I'll say. But we're definitely going to keep being here until the rest of the polls come in. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure. Hey, comment on this one. I think this is really an important comment. Hannah Robotaxi, thank you for this. Acting locally is super important. I've run as a school trustee. I would, in the future, I think, consider running for town council in my town of Airdrie. I'm hearing an echo, by the way. I don't know if others are hearing that. What are our opinions about Hannah's advice here?
I think it's very important. I know that I was personally invited to actually serve on a board after my campaign for my city. Sadly, due to life and my job and stuff, I don't think I really have the time to serve. I'd love to, because I think I would be a great sort of voice for responsible spending, since I don't think I'd have much opportunity to change our tax policy from that position. But yeah, I think serving municipally is great, because in the end, all three levels of government impact your life every single day. And in many ways, your municipal government impacts it more than any other.
Honestly, I encourage more libertarians to run municipally. I'm missing out on Drumheller, and I'm sure as hell going to miss out on the Calgary election coming up here. But I mean, the second biggest issue for taxes, at least besides just the income tax, was property taxes. A lot of people, especially in the smaller towns, if their smaller town wasn't actually providing any services with the money that they were taking with property taxes, then they just wanted them gone. And so if you live in a town, like you say, if you're tuning into this stream from a small town, even if you don't want to run necessarily with our party, run as a libertarian. Fight for your community to fight back against big bloated governments that are not actually going to be providing you support. I talked to a lot of people in these smaller towns where, you know, they're not getting any federal support. The federal government has completely abandoned them. Same time, the municipal governments are also taking huge amounts of money from them as well too. And you know, that gets eaten up in board meetings, it gets eaten up in bonuses every single year, and doesn't actually get provided to the people living in the riding. So if you're sick and tired of that, if you want to just keep the money that you earn instead of just giving politicians bonuses, I encourage absolutely every single one of you to run in a municipal election at some point. I mean, I know I will at some point. This one was just bad timing where a lot of stuff just happened like a month from each other.
Yeah.
Let's make note. Congratulations, you're up to 13.
Woo.
That's great news.
Congratulations to Hassan, the centrist. You know, he's the
He's got
last
4.
place parties, but he's actually got a vote now.
He's got 4 of them. The economy in Battle River Crowfoot, Frozen Light has asked a question here on X. The economy there is like, there's a town called Carbon. And the reason that that town exists was that they found coal long ago. And Drumheller and the valley surrounding Drumheller, all the badlands that surround Drumheller, you can literally drive and just look at the valley wall and see layers of coal. And it's been an energy hub for a long time. And then also now, of course, it's modernized and there's a natural gas hub in Hardisty that you know, the economy in this region is very heavily focused on energy, coal and natural gas primarily. Michael, any other perspective about the economy there?
I think, Pierre Poilievre just did dip below 80%. Bonnie just got another 300 votes, so that has to scale a little bit. It depends on where you go. Like in Drumheller here, the industries, like all of the big industries have shut down a long time ago. I know there was a lot of coal industry that was especially in the south of the riding, but when Rachel Notley became our premier, they shut down a lot of coal, especially in Drumheller. So now it's just tourism. Like that entire town, besides the outskirts, obviously, the entire town base is just purely tourism now. Purely about trying to get people to come into the town and spend money in the town. You go outside of Drumheller, however, it's either like predominantly ranchers, like there's a lot of cattle ranchers specifically. It's probably the biggest animal-based ranchers that are in the riding. However, where it comes to agricultural-based crops is predominantly canola and wheat. Those are the 2 things that I saw during the election. The actual farmers that I talked to that said what they were growing. I don't think that there was actually any other crops that were actually being grown in the riding. I didn't see any like corn. I didn't see any actual like big fields. It was either they're producing hay for horses, canola, or wheat. And besides that, it was just people who lived outside of the riding or worked outside of the riding, like Carbon as an example. No one lives in Carbon to live in Carbon. A majority of the people live there are either retired or they're people who work outside of town, like in the oil patch, and buy cheap land in Carbon to live there after when they're not working. But most of the time they're outside of the riding, outside of town working, and they come in and live there. So you have also that area where you have a lot of outsiders or people who work outside of the riding and come back into it. And they also bring money that way as well too.
And let's be clear though, that the limits that you're talking about, these you know, the fact that Drumheller is based on their economy is primarily tourism instead of energy. Carbon is as a retirement town or a what do they call it, like a sleeper community instead of energy. That's entirely because of the federal government policies regarding, you know, this war on oil. This climate change ideology that has ruled Ottawa for 15 years or more has destroyed, like, a lot of these communities would be thriving if we didn't have politicians in Ottawa that were waging war against our own energy sector. I think that's important to understand. Like Hannah, for example, on screen here makes a good point that the Battle River Crowfoot economy is in pretty bad shape in some areas.
Yeah.
Small towns look like ghost towns. No new businesses. Like we're not seeing growth in these,
Yeah.
despite the population growth across the nation, we're not seeing growth in these communities. That's important to know.
Yeah. And I think the only other big industry that was there is oil generators. Like we have a lot of power lines that run between Saskatchewan and the cities of Alberta. And in the between that, we have all the people that use like diesel generation and the actual oil coming from the oil patch to produce electricity. And I mean, that's where we get most of our power in the riding, and subsequently here in Calgary, that most of it actually comes from the people of Battle River Crowfoot. There's probably, I think, to my knowledge, I think about 2 big generators that exist inside the riding. There's one also outside of Stettler as well too. They're trying to upgrade the grid. I saw recently there was some development where it was wood piling. Now they're making these big substations out of metal now. So there is some development there. However, it's only in the cities. If you go outside of Camrose, outside of Stettler, there's very little actual development that we are seeing from either the government or private investment. And like you said, it's predominantly because the government is not incentivizing anymore. You have a provincial government that doesn't want people to develop the coal. You have a federal government that doesn't want you to develop oil. And they're taking all this money away and away from the people and not giving back to the people. So why would you, like I said in the debate in Drumheller, you guys keep talking about why you want to keep taking and taking and taking from these people in the riding and people that want to move to the riding. Why would anybody want to live and move in this riding if, we had 2 candidates talking about how, they wanted to increase taxes for everybody in the riding. And, they believe that small business owners should have to pay even higher of a tax. Like they didn't even mention big business owners. They just said all business owners, which is like, you want the little investment that still exists in my community, in my riding, to be scared away because you want to experiment with socialist policies yet again. That's why they're scared. Investors are scared because we have politicians and people that are apathetic to the actual local needs, where they're willing to sacrifice the people living here for their political goals. And it's sad, honestly. It's freaking sad, honestly, because we're going to see people moving out of this riding over the next decade here. I'm telling you, man.
I would like to make a couple of points. First off, if we are looking at the results right now, we are looking at what might be a fairly low turnout because we're looking at about 30. It says 33%, so about a third of the polls are reporting. But we're only at about just under 17% of total electors voting so far.
Yeah, duly noted. Interesting.
How the heck? Okay, realistically here, how the hell am I almost neck and neck with Kenneth here? Come on, guys, come on. There's got to be like a big Hannah poll close here in a minute here, because like there's no way that I'm neck and neck with freaking Kenneth.
Yeah, I gotta say I am a little surprised so far. Yeah, 2 more there.
Another shout out as well to my supposed independent libertarian counterpart, Mr. Dillon, who is now the biggest, longest ballot competitor here on this riding list here. I can't say his last name. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to butcher it. But he was originally trying to get to the Tofield debate, and I was disappointed they didn't invite him because I was really wanting to debate someone from the longest ballot committee. But
oh, here he is. Here, Dylan Colcahoun. Colcahoun.
Yep.
Comment from Hannah Robotaxi. This is interesting. So when Rachel Notley got into Alberta's main seat in 2015 for NDP, she destroyed towns like Hannah that had a big coal mining industry that a lot of people from the town worked in. Now we have 3 windmills within 60 kilometers and have huge power outages. Yeah, like that's what I'm talking about, that we've had governments in Ottawa and unfortunately this, like, I don't know what Albertans were thinking in 2015. Were they trying to send a message to the Conservatives or something? But we've had these governments that have just waged a war on the energy sector. The economy in Alberta, such as it is, succeeds despite all of the policies that restrict it in Ottawa.
I do want to say that for all 300 plus of you who are watching, I do encourage you, of course, to take a look at our party and get a membership if you see what you like. We got a lot going on. It may not. It's some of it's behind the scenes, but we got a lot going on right now. But I do got to say that, like, we were talking about municipal before, and of course we are a federal party.
Michael's up to 21.
Yay!
Huge jump.
Huge jump. All right, I'm coming for you, Sarah.
I do got to say that provincial governments impact your life in significant.
Cheers into that.
And if you do have a Libertarian Party provincially, take a look at them. And if you don't have one,
create
maybe help find fellow libertarians to make one, because the fight for liberty is one that we need to fight at all three levels. No matter how much I am involved in the federal party, that is, and I want to say that we need to fight at all three levels for this sort of stuff, because a lot of the stuff that people ask, and some of the stuff that I was hearing Michael talk about has a lot to do with their local municipal governments and their local provincial governments, and they take issue with this stuff. And it's like, I sympathize with you, but as a federal candidate, there's only so much I could do, even if elected, about those things.
I've tried to say over this election that municipal issues are federal issues, because like these towns already, like they're way too small to be able to provide for themselves. Honestly, you have some towns that are like they have a lot of outback people, but they're trying to act like they're a bigger town. And the big problem with that is that the government just completely shoves them off. Like, these are hard-working people. Like, you have train line workers, farmers, people are trying to make a business. You have people that work, obviously, in the oil patch that live outside of town. They're paying more taxes on average than people in the city might be paying. And my big issue is that if they were left alone, they would probably be able to use a lot of that money to be able to help their community. Like, when I was in Alliance, there was a lot of people that worked on community projects. Like, there was a guy that literally had his entire front backyard as a farm, like as a miniature garden and farm, so he could provide food for the elders in his town. Like, is probably the nicest man I met in this election. And stuff like that, where, you know, they could actually use the money that has been taken from their taxes and give back to their community, but yet they just can't. The government is just taking and taking and taking from them. And, you know, I get hate comments all the time saying, you know, if we get rid of the taxes, who's going to build the roads? Who's going to build the water infrastructure? And yet they still are taking those taxes, and yet we're not seeing it in that infrastructure. I mean, I might be less libertarian in the sense that I would like to see the government actually enact their promises. I'd like to see them actually, if they take the money from people, give them the services that they're owed. Like, I got criticism for it, but if you're going to take 50% of people's income, give them grants in these smaller towns for road and water infrastructure, or just stop taking the taxes in the first place, because you're not doing a service to them. You're not giving any service to these people by taking away their money and not giving them a cent back. Acme has been abandoned for decades, where the federal government hasn't bothered to give them a single grant for road infrastructure. And yet they keep promising every year that a $4 million check is being waved in front of them, that it's coming, guys, it's coming. Just keep paying your taxes. And it's like, it's just not coming. It's just, I'm tired of it, honestly.
Yeah, I think libertarian messaging happens to be something that, as a new candidate, my last election was my first election for the party, is trying to deal with certain issues that it's hard to have an opinion on as a libertarian, and trying to explain it to people, because the situation is so screwed up by government that there is no real good way to describe it. It's just like with the recent Air Canada stuff, where I think that one's a little simpler, where the government should not be involved, but the argument always comes down to, oh, well, like, Air Canada is such a big company that if it if there's a strike, it's going to massively impact the economy. But the only reason that Air Canada is so big that it impacts the economy that much is due to decades of government interference, where they created the company in the first place, and then they gave it an advantage. And then when they bought Canadian Airlines, 25 years ago, they essentially like convinced the government to give them unfair advantages in that purchase, and regulations that put other companies, make it harder for other companies to get into that industry. It's decades of government influence that have caused this issue, that now people are saying, well, the government has to get involved in one way or another, either for the company or for the
I've
workers.
officially beat Sarah now in the polls.
Yeah,
we are
look at that.
going ahead, neck and neck now.
Hey, comment on this, Michael. Victor asks about Students for Liberty. I'm not sure if you're at liberty to talk about it.
Well, like I said, I have to say this first and foremost. I mean, they are a nonpartisan organization. They haven't supported me in this election at all. They had, whether it be PR or money-wise, but I was a big member with Students for Liberty. I helped quite a bit, especially in Calgary here, where, I mean, we have something called the Liberty Pact, which is a coalition of libertarian student organizations. It's like Generation Screwed, Students for Liberty, my organization, the Every Citizen a King Society. We had like the Classic Liberal Alliance group that was an MRU, like some pretty big groups melded together. And honestly, I will say it is a pretty damn good way to get the message across. A lot of people, especially those that are in university, are wanting to learn. That's why they're there. Maybe they just want a piece of paper at the end of the day, but most people want to learn. And Students for Liberty offers free resources for people to learn about economics. Maybe you're going into economics, you want to learn more. Well, here we go. I can give you some free textbooks. I can give you some free literature where you can learn about a plethora of different perspectives on the economy, about how politics should be run, the role of a good government, all of that type of stuff. And the very bare minimum, I think that's the best service that they provide, is the educational side to it. You want to learn more about libertarianism. You want to learn more about economics. You want to learn more about how government is run. They provide those free services, and I think that's a pretty good thing of them to do. I always joke, and this is a very funny thing on my campus at least, is that we do all of these services for free. We offer free events where we give out free beer, free drinks. We do free polling nights. We have free debate nights where we give out prizes and stuff like that. We have stuff where we have the free educational side of it, and we don't charge a cent for them. Yet we have our rival group, the RCP, also known as the Revolutionary Communist Party, who do exactly the same thing, but communist. And they charge for everything. They charge $5 for a newspaper. They charge about $50 for a book. You want to go to their events, they're extremely elitist. You have to pay almost $20-something to get into an event, and food has to be provided by you. So it's really funny that the libertarians in the student groups are actually the real communists, because we give out stuff for free, while the communists are actually the capitalists trying to make a profit. And I mean, that's quote their UFC president saying, I asked them, why are you selling all your stuff? Why aren't you giving it out for free? And I quote, is because they're trying to make a profit. So I think we've already beat the communists. They've already become capitalists in my mind, especially the younger communists. They've already been beaten. But just generally, Students for Liberty is a good organization to get involved with. We have a recruitment process if you want to become a member or organizer that ends tonight, actually. We only hire in orders, or people want to join as an organizer. And tonight is the last opportunity for you to join as the organizer in the summer. So you won't be able to join until January, I believe. So if you would like to join as an organizer, this is your last chance. Check out the website and get involved, people.
I do want to say a couple things. First, is sort of a funny thing, which is that I don't think that you mentioned that you guys are more. I don't think you guys are more the communists. I think you are doing a great show of what libertarians want. We're voluntarily giving stuff to people, right? And that because I think a big thing that people mistake about libertarianism is that we're selfish and that we don't like community. We love community, we want people to work together, but we want people to work together willingly and
Yeah.
voluntarily. We don't think that people being forced to work together is actually functional or effective. But the thing about Students for Liberty is I think organizations of that like that are super important. Especially, I think Students for Liberty. Sadly, when I went to college, my college didn't have one, a chapter, so I was unable to join. But it's at that age, like as a young person, young people are sort of starting to develop what they believe and what their worldviews are, and what they end up believing when they're younger, even if they change, right, as you develop throughout your life. Maybe your political views change. You're still going to have some of that in you, and I think everyone who's not a fan of big government knows that like educational institutions have a reputation for pushing a certain sort of economic and progressive set of beliefs, and things like Students for Liberty, I think, are really important for fighting against that. Where young people, we are like, we don't like authority, but it's what path do you take in your dislike of authority? Do you take the I want to get less authority, or do I want to just change who gets the authority, which is what your typical socialist answer would end up being.
Yeah. Still neck and neck with Sarah. We are still going
Yeah.
strong, ladies and gentlemen.
26 and 26. It's like a slow motion
Oh,
horse
we just
race.
updated 28-28 now.
Really?
Funny enough, though, we
28,
haven't
28.
even hit 50% of the actual polling stations that are open. So there's 50% of the votes haven't even been counted yet. So
it's with that new style ballot, it's probably going to be a long night, especially with like mail-in votes.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. I think it's gonna be a long night for the vote counters. So I hope that they get a long break after this, because I think there's going to be a lot more scrutineering in this sort of
Bonnie
than
Critchley is more than 2x the Liberal candidate. So, like, I've been watching that pattern. Bonnie has been pretty consistently about twice what the Liberal has gained, but now she's pulling away. And then, of course, the Liberal is 2x the NDP candidate, which surprises me, actually. Albertans, provincially, they vote Conservative, and then NDP has this sort of phenomenon, and in the urban centers in Alberta, NDP is quite strong. Liberals, not so much, but in this election, the Liberal is 2x the NDP candidate. What does that say about the NDP candidate?
I think that's a nationwide thing. Even in my riding here in Yorkton Melville, the NDP were the number
Michael's
2
pulling
party.
ahead 30-28, by the way. Sorry,
Let's
Alec,
go.
Huge.
But the NDP were the second place party for I think the last time that it wasn't Conservative, and then a Conservative party, and then NDP second in my riding was like 2004. And since then, it's been all NDP second, and this election the NDP fell pretty significantly. And I think it's a combination of a lot of these rural ridings didn't run very good NDP candidates, whether they were just not really fit for the riding, or in my case, they didn't really campaign. I think it's a combination of that, but also just nationwide, the collapse of the NDP, and most of those votes going to the Liberals has And I think this is another example of that, where despite the NDP historically being like the second place party in a lot of these rural ridings, especially in 2025, that has changed. Because I don't know, because I know that you both, well, of course, Michael right now, but I know that David, you ran in a fairly rural riding. I know that Airdrie and Cochrane
Airdrie,
are
Cochrane.
fairly bigger centers, but overall you have a decent rural.
It's a large rural
representation there.
area, but the population is mostly urban. Airdrie and Cochrane are both cities greater than 55, 60,000. Cochrane is 80 or so. Airdrie is 90 now, 1,000. So these areas, however, aren't Calgary. Like Calgary votes NDP, Airdrie tends to vote Conservative, except locally, like the municipal elections seem to be going more statist in Airdrie, increasingly statist, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, when I moved into Airdrie, if you rank order the top 10 most populous, most populated centers in Alberta, Airdrie is like number 10. And of those 10, Airdrie has the lowest property tax per capita. And I'm like,
Oh, really?
great, we should celebrate that. But everyone running in the local municipal election has 1,000 ideas about how to tax more and spend more, right? So Airdrie may lose the low tax, small government ethos, which has made it thrive to this date, and it'll be replaced soon by this big government, big spend ethos, and I'm kind of worried about that. Like we were talking earlier about people running for local elections and municipal elections. This is why it's really important, and I think that I might want to get involved in the Airdrie scene, so to speak, so that I can offset some of the big statist, big spender ideas.
I think there's a couple things. Oh,
I think it also kind of
I'm gonna
helped
let
in
you
the last election as well too, because the People's Party completely gave up in Central Alberta, like Airdrie, like they didn't even run a candidate as well too. So like I think we're also seeing as well too for some of these more centralized towns, especially in Alberta, like we got Airdrie, Red Deer, Calgary, and Edmonton, where I mean half the damn ridings in Central Alberta didn't even have a PPC candidate as well too, which is also good for us that we'll come in here and we'll fill the void since they can't even run a candidate.
Yeah, I didn't have one run in my riding, and I had a couple people at least who messaged me who were former PPC supporters asking about my campaign, and yeah, it's but I did want to speak about the municipal thing again because I did have a couple of thoughts since we had that initial conversation, where I think for people who a lot of people who I speak to who have interest in the Libertarian Party, and I always recommend that anyone who's interested put their name forward to run. You don't have to do all this stuff that Michael's been doing. I encourage you to, but you don't have to. In the end, you can just talk to 100 and some people to sign a piece of paper, do a bunch of paperwork, and there you go.
But, I will say though, it's a bit soul crushing though, because in one part though, I put in a lot of work in this election. I think most people, I hope some of it's at least recognized, but I talked to quite a few people over this election, and see the turnout. I'm not going to be honest. I'm not the most excited right now, but at least things are trunking on. I'm glad I'm being Sarah here, but how the hell are people voting for Kenneth? Who is voting for this man? I must find this out.
I think it's one of those things where I think the pure amount of candidates is really detrimental, because there was a lot of candidates who would say things sort of libertarian, where they're, oh, we like the Christian Heritage candidate who's like, oh, we want to abolish the income tax, and Bonnie was saying how she's like, oh, we want to do anti-tariff, and I know that the United Party guy had some stuff, and then of course Pierre claims to be a libertarian. So I think there was a lot of folks in the election who said things that were fairly small government, even if they're not, like, their actions wouldn't end up being small government. I think there was too many people promising small government stuff that people who were in an election where there was less candidates, they would vote for you. They go for we'll go for this other guy because he's giving me, especially in the case of people who are socially conservative and are not socially conservative in the libertarian way, but socially conservative in the we need to force people into believing what we believe sort of way, where they might look at your campaign just by itself and be like, oh yeah, well, like small government, but then they go, oh, this person sort of promises small government, but they have all the social stuff that I love.
Oh yeah.
Look at Michael at 35, pulling away ahead of Sarah.
Yeah.
And
above Kenneth.
closing in on Jeff Willerton.
And by the way, if you beat the Christian Heritage guy, that would be, I would say that's a very good result, because it is.
Well, I'm still coming for Ashley. Like I'm sorry. Like Ashley, come on, man. I didn't see you out there door knocking, man. You didn't come here with drum mailer. So
it's all the name value.
This is a case of people showing up and just voting for the Green Party because that's what they've done for the past 5 elections, and whether they even watched the debate, and I can't even tell. But yeah, Jeff with the Christian Heritage Party was well prepared at the debates. He was well spoken. You know, he made some good points, and you are very close at 35. He at 40. This is very good. Very good.
Interesting, though. We only have, I'd say, about 50% of the people in each of these towns that are reporting actually going out to vote, and actually even less than that, because we're now past 50% of the towns that have been, polled, and only 26.38 of those towns have actually voted. And so I'm thinking, I don't think we're going to see more than 40,000 people vote in this election. I think we're probably not going to see, I wish we could see where they're actually reporting from, if they've hit like cameras and stuff like that yet.
You have mentioned that after 4 months, when all the paperwork has to be in, then they will release the poll by poll results.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see mine. Mine, like the general election ones, will be coming out in just over 10 days from now. So I'm sort of interested in my own campaigns where exactly people voted. But yeah, you'll have to wait, sadly, about 4 months before you get the poll by poll results for this election.
You'll also get to learn how many ballots were discarded. And I think that'll be really interesting. I was watching, I think it was Marty Up North on X posted a chart showing how many ballots are usually discarded across the country. And he was just pointing out that, like, Quebec throws out the most ballots. And he was like, why is this happening? Clearly, the way that the way that the polls are managed and the way that the scrutineers are involved in Quebec is different than elsewhere, because they discard more ballots than, or maybe just the electors show up and they destroy their ballot. They make their ballot void in some way out of spite, or who knows. But that was interesting, and so I realized that after this by-election, we can find out how many ballots were discarded. And if it was an anomaly based on people having to write in the name of their candidate, I'm interested to see how that turns out.
I think that comes out fairly not long after
Hmm.
Like, yeah, the poll by poll results come out after the 4 month paperwork due. But like my results for the general election, I think it's when they do sort of almost a recount, where I believe it's the the returning officer sort of signs off on everything,
Yeah.
and then they do, because my result changed about a week after, I think it was, where sadly about 20 of my votes, I think, got voided.
Oh, interesting.
Very disappointing. It dropped me by a whole like tenth of a percent, which sucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Michael
like
at 38. Look at this. Michael closing in on the Christian
ooh,
Heritage Party. Very interesting.
You better
You're
start running,
pulling ahead
man.
of Sarah. Kenneth might actually pull ahead of Sarah. He has a chance.
That's freaking crazy. in
that
my
would
opinion.
be very funny. Because she got, like, for being sort of an independent candidate, and not being Bonnie Critchley, she got a surprising amount of free attention from the media.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you could tell from the start that the momentum just wasn't there for her.
Yeah.
All of the momentum, media, and just everything wise for an independent candidate all went to Bonnie Critchley almost immediately.
She
But
strikes
like,
me as someone that would otherwise run for the NDP if there wasn't already an NDP candidate.
yeah,
And
The
she made it.
one base thing about Sarah is we had a brief conversation, the Stetler debate, that she is completely against the war on drugs, and she saw I had a little pamphlet on that, and her and her staff team took like a whole bunch because they were like, "Yeah, well, this is like, we disagree with a lot of things, Michael, but like I think this is the one thing you got nailed down pat." So
Well,
I
so the
got to give
NDP.
credit where credit's due.
Hold on. Be careful here. The NDP across the country, and particularly in British Columbia, is against drug regulation. They're all for decriminalization. And I'm like, I have my doubts, and I'm curious about why that issue in that party has taken hold. I mean, any theories? Any ideas?
so you're
Like,
saying
I
that,
don't think that they're in favor of, self-determination and self-responsibility and individual actions. Something statist is behind it, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
why they like drugs, or not why they like drugs, but why they want drug legalization. Because I don't like drugs. Um, yeah,
Why is the Canadian NDP in favor of decriminalizing narcotics and other illicit substances?
that might just be purely a sort of a voting thing, right?
Buying votes?
Yeah, there could be some sort of like polling that they've done, or internal polling on
How
certain
to get the
demographics,
blue collar worker vote? Maybe.
or yeah, even or yeah, I think it would have to be, because it doesn't
I,
seem to be consistent with anything else.
is it based on like a kind of compassion uh, for people that are in jail?
Oh yes,
You know,
okay, that definitely changed. Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe it's a sort of like, because they're very much against, they're very much for like
lighter
uh,
sentencing and
yeah, justice
you know,
reform, as they would call it.
yeah,
And
Libertarian 49, CHP 40. Let's
yeah,
go.
we like, they're very big on justice reform, so maybe something to do with that sort of,
So light on crime.
yeah, sort of a because they're very big on sort of
I'd like
alternative
to,
justice.
yeah, yeah, rehabilitation and, it's, there's something really suspicious about that, though. Really suspect, and not in line at all with other aspects of the NDP platform, as far as I can tell.
It depends on some people. Like I've had my fair share of debates with the U of C NDP on the University of Calgary, and I will say it's a different opinion depending on
You're
who you
ahead of
talk
the Christian
to.
Heritage Party,
Oh,
43 to
did
42.
we pull ahead?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me check. Yo, that cheers, boys. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Evangelicals are
that.
falling behind. I
We
bet
can
they're
officially
weeping
retire now.
quietly.
It depends on who you're talking to, honestly, because like you've got those that are obviously, like you were saying, it was just more about like the sympathetic side to it. I don't know too many people in the NDP that want to see it legalized more than they want to see it decriminalized, which is, I mean, it's better than nothing in my opinion. But I mean, you know, we want it legalized. We want people to be able to have a, you know, cleaner and better options. However, you know, we always have the conservatives that want it. You know, God forbid you touch a milligram above 10 milligrams THC, and you know you're going to go to jail for 10 years or something. You
Okay,
know?
that actually might be the root of the NDP
Yeah.
position, that it's just anti-conservative. Oh,
It could be
conservatives
that
are going to
too.
be
It could be
tough on
that.
crime, and they would criminalize, you know, even people carrying a few grams of marijuana. Well, to be opposite of that, the NDP may have taken a stance of decriminalization. Like it could be that simple. It's just anti-conservative.
It could be. I sadly I don't.
Like I don't know that it's founded in any other conviction.
I'm going to
You know what I
switch my hat. Hold on.
That right there comes down to why do so many parties do things, is that they don't have any sort of real basis on what their policies come from. And
Good
that's something
hat.
that I've
Dobra babushka.
I forgot my cowboy hats at home. I didn't bring them.
Yeah, mine's upstairs.
No, my leather hats are too hot, man. I had to switch out to a plastic one because I'm sweating my ass off right
Yeah,
now.
my felt stays in my room all summer because there's no way I'm wearing it. But yeah, like it's something that I really I've had plenty of talks with fellow libertarians on sort of whether or not we should criticize parties who are closer to us policy wise or not. And the reason that I say that I do personally is because the fact that they don't actually have a basis on where their policies come from, except for what generally will get them votes. And we see that from Pierre, where the CPC jumps around so much. And like I think you take the CPC of like 20 years ago and you tell them, oh yeah, like the CPC of 2025 was promising that even with a 4-year majority, they would not balance the budget. I think there would be outroar about that. But now it's everyone's just like, oh well, it's too hard. It's too hard to balance the budget at the moment, so we just have to accept it.
Okay, so let's have a look. The NDP health critic a few years ago introduced a bill to decriminalize drug use. Let's understand their rationale here. Treat substance abuse comprehensively as a health issue. So they want more health funding, right? They want to, if they can decriminalize drugs, then that means we have to spend more money on the health system, obviously. Access to treatment, for example. That means more money for hospitals. Ensure safe supply. That means more money, more taxation so that they can provide more health services. Expunging criminal records for possession, low barrier access to safe supply, expanding access to harm reduction, treatment, and recovery services.
David, I don't have access.
Oh, you're on
to
your phone.
Mod. Yeah, I don't have access to the mod stuff. So somebody's
fair enough.
spamming something. In the...
Just a quick intermission. I wanted to thank. I mean, I don't know if X is lying to me here, but we're getting pretty damn close to 500 people that are watching the stream. So I want to thank everyone who's taking their time out of their day to listen to our stream and still sticking
Yeah, I
by
can't
it
tell
here.
if that's like total views or if that's actually like
Yeah,
viewers.
is that live? We have I think if
If
we had
so,
500 something people, and
thank
more
you.
people talking in the chat.
Sorry, I'm stuck on this topic, but I
Oh no,
really
no
think
worries.
that the reason the NDP want to decriminalize substance use is so that they can justify the massive expansion of universal health care. Because everything they're talking about in this platform statement, or sorry, in this press release, I guess it is about expanding healthcare. Decriminalize, that's secondary to the issue of expanding healthcare, right? Access to safe supply, that's expanding healthcare. Access to harm reduction, recovery services, treatment. This is all about universal healthcare and
Isn't
making
that
sure that more billions can be poured into the universal healthcare system.
yeah?
And in this
Isn't that
case,
like the main argument against like one of the main arguments against legalizing drugs is the impact of healthcare?
how
That
so?
seems well. A lot of people. I know that at least one of the conservative arguments is that it because we have government health care. I refuse to use the word universal because it makes it sound good.
Yeah.
But that because we have government health care, that we can't do this stuff because then it'll put more pressure on our healthcare system. So
The NDP want pressure on the healthcare system. The higher the wait lists, the longer the wait times, the better, because that just means we need to pour more money into it. Solving wait lists is never the policy trajectory of the NDP parties across the country.
Yeah, I look back at my answer that I had for a question about healthcare at my candidate
At your
forum
debate.
from last election. And despite, I think I did good for it being sort of a sudden question. And I think I was one of the first ones to answer. But I've thought about it since, and I truly think that people don't really know what the Canadian Health Act is and what it does. Because it is coercion, and not only to you but to your provinces. Of course, I have my own personal opinions about my province's healthcare system, but in this case, I am a federal. I was a federal candidate, so I had to answer in a federal manner, and that it's that the government takes your money, right, and it takes it, and then it says to the governments of all the provinces that you have to have, if you want this money to be that we took from your people, and you want it back, so then you can put it into
Pay
the
for
healthcare
hospitals and stuff.
of the people that we took this money from. You have to do it in this particular way. That's what the Canadian Health Act puts out, is that you have to do it in this manner, or the money does not come back to the people that we took it from. So it is not only, there's of course the taxation argument that we would have, basically, but even outside of that, they are like coercion, like it is coercion to the provincial governments, because the provincial governments then only have two options: either give in and get the money back, or they don't take the money. All of their people are now poorer, but they have the freedom to change their healthcare systems to what needs to be done. So it's, and so many people I don't think even realize this, because when I said that, which I don't think my answer was perfect. I know next time I have it down pat, but when I said that, like, there was a lot of people seemed very surprised, both about my answer, because I think it's a very unique answer for Canadian politics, but even the idea that, well, yeah, maybe the Canadian Health Act is actively holding back all of our provincial governments from improving our health care.
It is. There's no question that that's true. I like the way you've framed that, actually, that we've taken this money from your provincial taxpayers, and in order for us to give it back to you so you can provide health care for those taxpayers, you have to do it in this way. And there are restrictions on what can be done in each province. Like we simply can't innovate in each province. We should have 13 different healthcare systems in Canada. We should. We should have 10 provinces and 3 territories that are all able to innovate and explore and experiment with different health services, and we're just not able to do that. If we could, we'd have 13 different experiments running simultaneously, and we could all understand which of those experiments is succeeding. Which of those, like, I have to give credit to Daniel Smith here in Alberta for some of the big moves that she's made in healthcare. You know, she's taken a lot of power away from the Alberta Health Services Department, the AHS, and redistributed the way services are provided throughout the province. I'm eager to see how this turns out. Like, I think it's a worthy experiment to run. I wish that she could go further, but she's restricted by the Healthcare Act.
Yeah, and I always, because like, and that's something that bothers me, is that it wasn't always like this. Like it happened to Michael during his forums, where he's running for a federal seat, but he's getting asked these questions that have more to do with provincial politics than federal politics. But the reason that they're being asked in a federal sense is because at some point the federal government has made those issues federal issues against the will of the provinces. Like the Canadian Health Act wasn't always a thing. At one point, the federal government decided, oh yeah, by the way, we now deal with healthcare. It's not our it's not our thing, but
okay. Trivia question: who is to blame for the federal healthcare design?
Oh, I feel like I'm going to be wrong on this, but going by the fact that this is the typical answer, I'm going to say Pierre Trudeau.
No.
Oh, I'm showing my age here.
Okay, well, who gets the most credit for the so-called universal healthcare system in Canada?
The Premier of Manitoba.
No,
he wasn't Manitoba. He was the Premier of Saskatchewan, Tommy Douglas.
Yeah, Tommy Douglas.
But he was the provincial system. So here's the trivia. This will blow your mind. Diefenbaker, while Prime Minister, commissioned it was a royal commission under his conservative government to design the federal universal healthcare system. So the commission that he created designed it, and then he lost the election, and 4 months later, it was Lester Pearson. Pearson followed Diefenbaker. Pearson signed it into law. Now, I don't know what changes the Liberal Party made to the design. I'm sure all of adjustments that they might have made in the design since the commission authored the documents would have been bad. You know, whatever changes they implemented would have been like, but I'd like to know. I'd love to talk to someone. So no, the Libertarian Party in New Brunswick, Tommy Douglas designed the Saskatchewan system, not the federal system. Diefenbaker's commission designed the federal system, and then 4 months after the election, 5 months after the election, the Liberal Party signed it into law.
Bad news, ladies and gentlemen. The Christian Heritage has now beat me now by 1 vote now again.
Neck and neck.
Ashley just keeps slowly. We're slowly gaining on him. I mean, Grant and Catherine have been going back and forth in the middle of this election on who's going to get 4th place. Currently, Catherine's obviously pulling a little bit more ahead here, but They keep switching whenever a big vote comes in. Grant gets like 100, and they keep switching or not between the two.
Interesting.
I do got to say, I know that most likely what Gerald just wrote is a joke, but it is a serious thing. The fact that people, for some reason, stop thinking the moment the first two syllables of libertarian
Yeah,
come out of your mouth. The amount of people who
We had
immediately assume.
It's happened so many times throughout this election, saying that I'm a libertarian, and they're like, "You're liberal. We don't support liberals. I don't want to talk to you." It's like, no, we're against taxes. We support your freedom of speech. We hate Mark Carney. You know, like usually you have to say those buzzwords to get them, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, you know, we agree so much." But like that's a big part. You have to get people to realize that we are an actual party. We're not liberals. We have lived, but
at the conference 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, at the Libertarian Party of Canada conference in London, Ontario, we had a proposal. One of the members proposed that we change the name of the party, and he proposed that we change it to smaller government. He said, let's be the smaller government party. And that on the ballot, it would show smaller government. And you could put an X beside it.
I know I've heard of like Freedom Party being sort of like I did speak a bit with our friends at the Libertarian Party of New Brunswick, I think it was, who said that at one point when they were registering the party, that someone at Elections New Brunswick told them like, "Are you sure you don't want to like go with like Freedom Party, because they're like libertarian has some sort of like stigmas behind it," and they're like, "No, we are the Libertarian Party." Because that's the thing, it's not our fault as libertarians that the Liberal Party does not actually subscribe to what liberalism actually means.
No, it's clearly, a faction of Liberal Party members 40 years ago purposefully led it as a socialist movement. I think Pierre Trudeau is on record as being a member of the communist. I mean, I might have my details wrong slightly, but he was a former member of the Communist Party of Canada or something like that, and then chose to be a Liberal Party member and run as a Liberal as a means to an end.
Yeah.
Well,
because
changed the Liberal Party fundamentally into a like radical socialist party,
and that's something that I noticed like internationally. That happens. Like the president of El Salvador, he was when he initially started running in politics, he ran for like the Socialist Party in El Salvador, and now he's the head of this like populist right-wing party, where not only does it sort of show that politicians will go wherever they can to win, but how similar are these authoritarian movements that it doesn't take very much to go from being a full-fledged socialist to being like, well, and now I just want to take people's rights, but in a right-wing way.
Yeah.
Elliot coming in with the fan of the party name. I think you kind of have to, though. You kind of have to keep the party as the Libertarian Party. You couldn't actually switch it, because even though at the end of the day you still have that hurdle of convincing people that we're not liberals. Well, some of us might be classic liberals, that we're not neoliberals. At the end of the day, there is still a bit of notoriety, especially with what Javier Milei is doing in Argentina right now, that there is a notoriety being built around the libertarian name, and you can't just abandon it. Like you have to be part of that, because at the end of the day, that is what's driving forward this movement, is the name libertarian. And freedom, if you say you're the Freedom Party of Alberta, I mean, we had that in the last two elections, and you're just going to make yourself even look more like a redneck than I already am. So,
yeah, because I like whenever people had that issue where they assumed that I was liberal, after sort of explaining that no, like we're like very much opposed to the liberals. I would always, sorry, my phone. I would always mention that like the root word of libertarianism is liberty. Like that's where it comes from. It's not that's the basis of what we believe. Is the name isn't just there for whatever purpose. It describes where our beliefs come from, which is liberty.
Yeah. Which is actually different than the etymology of liberal. So that's interesting. Check this out. I'm going to share my screen and show you one of my favorite websites. Oh, change it over to here. So check this out. Liberal, the etymology is not liberty. It is generous, nobly born. That's why they think they're elitists. It's in the name. Noble, selfless, magnanimous, admirable, extravagant. From the old French liberal, befitting free people, noble, generous, willing, zealous. So it's befitting the free people. Notice, years ago, that would be the fiefs, right? The free people were the people who could own property. So you're not the serf. Liberalis, noble, gracious, generous. And then literally of freedom pertaining to or befitting a free person. So again, not a slave. The way I'm reading this etymology is that the word liberal is not about liberty exactly. It's about being the elite. In a caste system, the liberal person is the one with freedom, not the one that is the servant.
And you notice that that humble isn't in any of those words.
Oh no. So what's the etymology of liberty, which is quite different? Free choice, freedom to do as one chooses, freedom from the bondage of sin, freedom, liberty, free will, civil or political freedom, condition of a free man, absence of restraint, permission. This is actually very different than the etymology of liberal. I've never looked into it, but this is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how much different they are.
Yeah, one of them is about being the elite that is not the serf in a serfdom.
Because of course the definition of like what a liberal is nowadays compared to like a classical liberal is quite different. But yeah, I'm surprised by even where the original meaning of the word came from.
So classical liberalism is really about limited government, free market, emphasizing civil liberties. But that would have been 400 years after the etymology of the term.
I'm going to interrupt 1 second. Go take a quick look at the results.
60. Look at that.
53.
Pulling away ahead of the Christian Heritage Party there, Michael.
It's kind of no. The one thing though, I mean, I must bring up our Lord and Savior, Mr. Kenneth Girk again, but he is beating Sarah now, and I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I gotta find out if Sarah has like a watch party too. I want to see what her live reaction.
Yeah. Because it's probably on TikTok. I think if I would check TikTok if I were you, because that's where she's been big on.
Honestly, I'm surprised people are still up right now. Like I'm having fun though. I'm having fun tonight. Like listen. It's not the result that I was looking for. I mean, I think I put in quite a lot of work for this result. I'm gonna be honest with you, but at the end of the day, it was a fucking blast, man. Let me tell you, this election was an absolute blast to be able to go. Talking with people.
I think it's purely numbers.
No, the debates themselves was probably worth, in my opinion.
We've got some congratulatory words from Chairman Giroux. Congratulations, Michael, on a fight well fought. Excellent. Thank you.
Michael, I think that even with the numbers here, I think that these, I don't even think these are the important numbers. I think that your campaign has brought, especially like a social media presence of liberty that we haven't seen in a few years. I think your campaign has been massive. As the social media guy, having to deal with people coming in and asking questions, looking at engagement and stuff. Yeah, your campaign has done phenomenal for more than just votes, right?
Yeah, highly visible, active, lots of good feedback and outreach for sure.
Yeah, I think and like when it came to mentions, right? When people were talking about different candidates, it was you were in some it depended on what was going on in the election, but there were times where you were like, after the Camrose debate, you were like the third most mentioned person that I saw. And I spent like the next day looking everywhere I could for references of the Camrose debate. And it was the top, of course, Pierre and Critchley. And then the only other person being mentioned was you. And
I thought
was that the algorithm?
It was really funny. CBC made an article about the Camrose debate, and they included a photo of me and Ashley. And it was the one photo where my eyes were closed. It was like I think Ashley was speaking to me on my left, and I think I was like this with my eyes are closed, and I'm like, come on, that's the one photo like in the national television, and they freaking put me with my eyes closed. It's crazy. But no, I agree with you, honestly. Like I said, half the battle of this campaign was just getting people to understand how much money has been stolen from them, how much they've been robbed, and then getting to the point where, what even is the Libertarian Party? Are we liberals? Stuff like that. And that was half the battle. So, I mean, we're going to see what the final result is. I'm still praying by the time I wake up tomorrow, it's going to tell me that I've beaten Ashley. I think
Ashley has went up by a single vote in the time that I think you went up by about 14.
Yeah.
So it is.
Hey, let me interrupt, guys. So 24 minutes ago, Pierre Poilievre gave a victory speech. Do you want to watch it?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Sure, why not? Let's see it.
You better be humble about this.
Let's check it out.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Let me just make sure we're going to hear the video. I think we are going to hear it. Hopefully I'll hear it too. And here we go. So give me a thumbs up if you do hear the audio, all right? Now, I don't know how much we'll watch of this, but let's just react as we watch it.
Thank you very much to the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. If I stand before you here today, it is by the grace of God and the good generosity of so many people, the first of which I must start with is my incredible wife, Anna. Anna, yes, give her a round of applause. Where did she go? Anna, you have been an incredible rock for our family. You've been the glue that has bound us all together. And to my kids, à mes enfants, Valentina et Cruz, vous me manquez énormément. Vous me manquez énormément. Yeah, my kids have been incredibly patient and understanding as Dad has been on the road a tremendous amount over a long period of time. And especially little Valentina, I haven't seen in a while, but I want them to know that we do this work for them and for all of Canada's kids. Thank you to the incredible Damien Couric, who has made, thank you. Whose gracious sacrifice has made this moment possible. He and Danielle have been filled with kindness and generosity to us. The story that most captures the essence of the Couric family happened at a tragic moment in their life. Last harvest, Damien lost his best friend and his father right in the middle of the harvest. And of course, this was a heartbreaking moment for him. He had spent his childhood basically being mentored by this gentleman who had taught him everything he knew. But then he had to ask himself, how are we going to get the crop off? 6,000 acres. And the leader of all of this work was no longer with them. And suddenly, dozens of combines from across Battle River Crowfoot appeared at the Currick farm and scattered out into the fields and brought home the harvest. Without asking for anything in return, these incredible neighbors, friends, and people perhaps they didn't even know showed up to give a helping hand. This was bringing in the harvest in more than one way, for the Currick family has planted the seeds of friendship across this region for over 100 years. And that the seeds of those friendships came home in that beautiful harvest on that day. And that epitomizes the great people of Battle River Crowfoot, for whom I am grateful that I will have the chance to be their humble servant, to fight every day and in every way for the people in this region who feed, power, and protect all of Canada. These are the farmers, the tradespeople, the soldiers, the prison guards, the entrepreneurs, and so much more. Through drought and depression, through booms and busts, they've come through it all and they've never stopped. But this incredible region and its amazing people have suffered terribly over the last 10 years. I have seen the main streets that have been hollowed out and the trades workers who are underemployed because there is just not the work, as the federal government has attacked the oil and gas sector and favored foreign producers. This is the truth here in Battle River Crowfoot and in many communities across this country. Over the last 10 years, Liberal policies have sent crime, immigration, housing costs, inflation, spiraling out of control. Now, they promised recently that things would be different, but under Mr. Carney and his 157 days in office, they've only gotten worse. There have been many announcements and meetings, many photo ops, and a lot of jazz, but not a lot of results. He sent everyone home for a summer vacation. He sent them home even though the deficit is spiraling out of control. Inflation is up, elbows are down, no resource projects are underway, and the housing crisis worsens as builders can't afford to build and buyers can't afford to buy. That's why us Conservatives have our work cut out for us. This fall, as Parliament returns, we will not only oppose out-of-control Liberal inflation, crime, immigration, cost of living, and housing prices, but we will propose real solutions for safe streets, secure borders, a stronger and sovereign country with bigger take-home pay for our people. We'll put Canada first, and we will do so.
You want to comment?
Oh, I was waiting for when he was going to start saying, because what I was essentially thinking through that entire thing was what I mentioned before, where we were talking about Michael's results and how I said that so many of his fellow candidates said the right things, even if I have no trust that they will follow through with any of them. Is it Pierre is saying a lot of things that as a libertarian, I'm like, oh, sure, yeah. Digging into his actual voting history and his, when he starts getting into actual policy and their platform, it's not there. But in when he's doing these speeches and when he's talking to people, he says things that are fairly small government. And like that was most of that beginning section. Now he's getting into stuff that I don't like. But yeah, he was saying a lot of stuff that overall it's like, oh yeah. But and I think that's where a lot of this election's issues came in, is that there's a lot of people, including Pierre, that say the right things. We know that they're not really telling the truth, but to the average voter, right?
I wonder if the amount of contact that Pierre has had with people here in Alberta in the past month or two has, like, will it deepen his resolve to lower tax and fight for energy sector. And like, it'll be really interesting to see if if Alberta has had influence on him. Let's continue here.
In a way that will make our country self-reliant and make our people capable of earning paychecks that buy affordable food and homes in safe neighborhoods. Thank you.
How do we have safe neighborhoods?
Cet automne, à la
the party doesn't
reprise
mention.
des travaux parlementaires, on ne se contentera pas de s'opposer à la criminalité, l'endettement et l'immigration et le coût de la vie hors de contrôle des libéraux. On va proposer des vraies solutions pour changer des choses, pour rendre nos rues sécuritaires,
By the way,
nos frontières
Michael,
sûres,
the
et les
number,
salaires
you're
des
getting
travailleurs
closer.
plus forts,
No,
la
yeah,
vie plus
slowly-
abordable. On va
slowly
mettre le
inching
Canada
towards
d'abord,
that.
You're
avec
inching
en
towards it.
automne, en travaillant pour les
I think maybe
travailleurs,
happen in French is
les gens
probably
qui
where
font
I'm
le
gonna
travail
say it.
acharné
I'm gonna be
pour
honest
qu'ils
with
puissent
you.
avoir
I
un
think I
bon
might
chèque
have
de
to
paix
call it
et
a
une
night
belle
here.
vie dans des communautés
Gonna be
sécuritaires.
honest.
Et nous serons prêts à travailler
It's
avec
been a good
n'importe
night,
quel
lads.
parti
It's
pour
been a good
réaliser
freaking night,
ces
but,
objectifs. We are going to be ready to work with any
I
party
think that might be
to
it.
get these results.
And
We
now
need
we're here.
stronger take-home pay for our
Maybe mind,
people in
pausing.
Battle River, Crowfoot, and across Canada, because people can't afford to live. They tell me the same story everywhere I go. Canadians now spend 42% of their income on taxes, more than on food, clothing, and shelter
Pause.
combined. And Mr. Carney's
Bit of propaganda for a minute here. Thank you, man.
Sure.
I'm just gonna say, like, I know you guys will probably be in here talking with chat for a little bit longer. We've still got a couple of people in chat, but no, I think I might be calling it for the night. I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty freaking tired. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
But, no, it's been an absolute honor to be able to run in this election, guys, and I know I'm not done yet. Like, we still got a lot of work ahead of us. The University of Calgary doesn't know what's going to hit them in the next couple of months here. Oh boy, there's a lot of shit to get done. That's for sure. I have my biggest plot is I'm planning on dethroning the RCP president that exists on our campus, because we're running a campaign to become or at least me or one of my vice presidents to become the president of the University of Calgary. So that's our next big thing. So if we can turn the campus into a libertarian campus, that can be a pretty freaking big deal. So that's what we're going to be focusing on from now on. I know we're going to have a couple of people that are going to focus on the referendum and just general. I'm going to be working with the Liberty Pact here in Calgary to hopefully organize a stronger libertarian front, whether it be just, getting more people involved in the ideology, getting more people talking about the issues of today, or talking about how they're being unfairly being taken advantage of by our government. But generally, I'd like just to say thank you for hosting me here tonight, guys, and thank you for allowing me to run in your party. I appreciate it.
Well, it's been our pleasure, and the little
God
bit
willing,
that I was able to
I'll be
visit you
staying
and
as
help.
long as y'all are you gonna keep me here. I don't have to give a resignation speech.
Michael, I just want to say thank you for everything you've done. Sadly, many of us haven't had the opportunity to run a campaign like yours, and I'm so glad that you took the opportunity that you had and you ran with it. And I think it's a great start to a party that is on the up, right? And and I really hope that your campaign encourages people in the future, whether or not you run in Battle River Crowfoot in the future, or if you choose to run somewhere else. I hope that somebody has been somebody looks at your campaign in that riding and decides to continue what you've started.
Yeah.
And across Alberta, I hope to see lots of candidates across Alberta, and I hope that this is just the start of it.
Yeah,
of course, good luck with Students for Liberty stuff. Of course, very important. I love the Students for Liberty.
I'm gonna see. I know
And
he left because he didn't want to hear the conservative propaganda, but I'm also gonna see if we can't help Keith next year with Pine Fest. Because now that I'm not running an election, hopefully next year, I'm actually can divert some of my time that way. Because I mean, Students for Liberty, they'll probably just fly me out regardless. But I want to help out with the operations, make sure that we get some younger people, maybe some young adults out to the event this year.
yeah, things cover up so bad because people don't know that, but you did invite me to your event there for Students for Liberty at the University of Calgary, and then they call the election right before, right around when it was happening, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I wanted to go. So timing is always the worst for that stuff. But yes, you've probably run like the strongest campaign I've seen as a member of the party for the party, and
Yeah, it was solid.
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, as someone who ran Saskatchewan for many reasons, has a very doesn't have a very big libertarian presence, and it's because people don't run here. I understand the whole uphill battle of trying to get just started and get people into it. So don't feel don't let this result get you down.
You got more votes than me, man. So be happy about that. I'm hoping they'll do like a recount suddenly. Oh my God, there's a box of Michael Harris votes they missed somewhere, but
that's the big that's what I mean by there's the why I'm not saying don't worry, because I'm telling you, if this of course isn't a normal election, there isn't usually this many people. I had 5 people in my riding, so
yeah. Well, yeah, I was fighting. I mean, I'm glad that we can end it off with saying that we beat Jeff. I'm glad that that happened. I mean,
And
I was
Sarah.
fighting against Jonathan. I was fighting against Grant. I was fighting against I guess I'm fighting Kenneth here too as well. But
No,
we were
you're
fighting
way
against
ahead of
pretty
Kenneth.
decently libertarian names, so we had to keep that in mind as well too. But we hit
You're
70,
well ahead of
and I
Jeff.
think that's a perfect way to call it for tonight. Is
Yeah.
calling at 70 votes. But,
Congratulations, Michael.
yeah.
yes, congratulations, man. And hey,
Yeah.
all I gotta say
Gerald in chat, thank you for voting for me. I don't care what the other guys are saying. I don't care what Marty's saying. Thank you. If you did vote for me, I appreciate it, lads. I appreciate it quite a bit. Cheers, man.
Yeah.
yes, have a good night there, Michael.
Appreciate it. Night, guys.
Sleep well.
Thank you. I'll probably don't bother contacting me till at least noon tomorrow, because I think it's the first time I'm actually have the opportunity to get a decent sleep in 2 months.
Yeah, you earned it.
Thank you, man.
Okay,
Good night,
take care.
guys.
So, Alec, where does that leave us? I need to also exit pretty soon. I've got family here, and it's late, and it's 11:30 Saskatchewan, or is it 12:30?
Oh, I'm in Manitoba, so it's actually 12:30 here.
Yeah, 12:30 there.
It's 11:30 at home. But
do you have interest in returning to the video, or like I think at this point, he's on his stump speech now, his usual stuff. I was thinking maybe he'd give a call out to some of the other candidates, like maybe he'd mention Michael, but he didn't, other than to say, what, a general congrats to the other runners. We've been at this 3 hours. I really appreciate that you were here. I'm kind of ready to pack it in. What do you think?
Yeah, I just a quick thing for the people, and that's I encourage all 3 of us that were here. I think this is the first time we've had the first time I've been here on one of the streams, and we were lucky to have 3 people who have run campaigns, and all in Western Canada. So I think we have a good sort of identifier of what it's like to run in an election sort of like this. And it's that I encourage people who are watching this, people who watch this, to step forward. I'm a 23-year-old. I work full time. I work more than full time most of the time, and I still it's seriously not as hard as people think it is. In the end, like, getting.
Yeah, and there are some experienced people that can help and network and answer questions and things. And so I appreciate that as well, that you call out to people that want to get involved or are
Yeah.
thinking about it. And it's not as hard as you think, and there's lots of support from people in the party.
We have so many people in the party who want to help people.
Yeah.
I've taken on a new position recently for the whole point of I want to get people involved. I want to get people running.
Yeah.
And so if you're watching this and you've ever considered it, please reach out. You never know. Like we have a minority government right now. The election could be in a year.
Yeah.
So
And we're going to need lots of candidates that are interested. And so become a member over there, I think on the screen right there. It starts with becoming a member, and then reach out to us with interest. Hey, I'd like to consider being a candidate, and we can send you some materials and information, or we can give you a call and we can talk it over. For my part, Alec, it's been my pleasure just to chat with you and with Michael tonight. And I'm the elder in the group tonight, I guess. But I really need to exit. I've got a dog here that's telling me that he's got to go out.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm just going to say goodnight.
Yes.
And yeah, good to talk with you.
Appreciate you for hosting as usual. And thank you to all that are watching. This whole by-election was quite an experience, I think, for everybody.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Tune in, like and subscribe and share and tickle the algorithm and all that stuff, so that next time we go live, you'll be informed and notified, and you can tune in again. So thanks everybody. Have a good evening.